A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
And now, the life of Mary Suffolk. Impulsive decisions often bring about startling results. And Mary's sudden decision to see Dr. DeRoy, a famous Swiss specialist, to persuade him to come to Sanders and examine Phyllis, Max's crippled sister, has led into surprising channels. When Mary arrived in Chicago, she went directly to the doctor's hotel, but the doctor's secretary refused to allow her to speak with the doctor. He told her they were leaving early the following morning to fly to New York, and that the doctor could not possibly see anyone. Mary declared she'd stay in the lobby until she did see him. In the meantime, back in Sanders, Max had had a strange visit from Cheney, a gambler who was wanted by the police. Some time ago, Max made an attempt to apprehend Cheney and his mob. During a raid, the police arrested Max, believing he was one of the gang. He was released on bail with the understanding that as soon as Cheney was recaptured, Max would return to jail and stand trial. We're glad Mary doesn't know about Cheney's visit, because she has troubles of her own, facing heartbreaking failure in her mission to see Dr. DeRoy. It is over an hour since Mary told Paul Hoffer, the doctor's secretary, that she would wait in the lobby until she did see the doctor. She's still there, and we find her now at a house telephone, calling Dr. DeRoy's suite once more.
Hello? Yes, operator, Dr. DeRoy, 2316. Thank you. Oh, yes. Hello. Mr. Hoffer, this is Mrs. Sanders. I'm so sorry to keep on troubling you, but I'm very anxious to speak to the doctor. Can you possibly see me? But, Mr. Hoffer, this is important, and I won't take much of his time, just a few minutes. I realize he's going away in the morning. That's why I must talk to him now. Mr. Hoffer, won't you please ask him? I'm almost positive he... Hello? Hello, Mr. Hoffer. Oh, dear, he's hung up. Well, we'll just have to wait until he comes down. I don't care if it's all night.
Mrs. Sanders?
Yes?
May I see you a moment, please?
Oh, certainly. What is it?
Well, it's rather difficult to say this, Mrs. Sanders, but I'm only the hotel clerk. There's nothing else I can do.
Well, I'll understand. What do you wish to tell me?
Well, Dr. DeRoy's secretary has asked me not to allow you to disturb him again.
Oh. He called just now and told you that?
Yes, I'm very sorry.
Oh, that's quite all right. You're only doing what's expected of you.
If you wish to leave a message in his box, he'd receive it first thing in the morning.
Well, that wouldn't do much good. But thanks just the same for suggesting it.
Perhaps if you stop by tomorrow, you might see him as he leaves.
I think you'd prefer I go now, wouldn't you?
Oh, no, not at all. I just thought...
I know I should go. Surely I need to sit here this long, I suppose, but I had the crazy notion I'd stay here all night, if necessary, until I saw the doctor.
I don't think that would be very comfortable, Mrs. Sanders.
Oh, I will do it, of course, but I simply can't afford to miss the doctor when he leaves tomorrow, and I thought if I was here...
As I said before, you might return early.
Well, that's what I'll do. Sorry if I put you in any trouble.
Not at all, madam.
Good night, then.
Good night. Cab, miss?
No, thank you. I'll walk.
Sanders?
What? Who's calling me?
I am. Over here in this car.
What? It's so dark I can't see very clearly. Mr. Cheney.
Yeah, that's right. It's me, Mrs. Sanders. Cheney.
What do you want?
I want to see you. Get in the car quick.
But I can't do that.
Look, Mr. Sanders, don't argue with me now. I got to talk to you. Hop in quick. We got to get away from here. I hope you'll kind of pardon the looks of this joint. I ain't been here myself in a couple of months. But tell me a little dusty.
I'm not interested in the appearance of the room, Mr. Cheney. What I want to know is, why did you bring me here?
Well, I'll tell you, Mrs. Sanders, but come on in a bit, will you? Don't have to be afraid of me.
I'm not in the least afraid. But I do resent the way you practically forced me into your car and drove me here.
I couldn't help it, Mrs. Sanders, honest. I'll give you the whole lowdown if you'll just come inside.
Well, for just a few minutes, then.
Good. Yeah, let me take some of this junk off this chair and you sit down.
Don't bother. I'm not staying very long.
Hey, Mrs. Sanders, I wish you wouldn't be sore. Guess maybe I did give you a rush into the car, but it wasn't healthy for me to hang around that corner. I had to talk to you.
How did you know I was in that hotel?
Well, I called up a couple of hotels where I figured you'd be stopping. Finally, I got the rifles. They told me you'd gone out, but you left a message where you were.
I can't understand how you knew I was in Chicago.
Oh, that's easy. I breezed into Sanders tonight.
You're in Sanders?
Yeah. Now will you sit down and let me tell you all about it?
All right. Tell me what happened.
Now, first, I don't want you to get worried. I only saw one person in town, and that was your husband.
Where did you see Meg?
At your house. I stopped off to say hello. See how the world had been treating you folks.
Wasn't it dangerous for you to take such a chance?
Breathing is dangerous to me the way things are. I've been playing hide and seek with the cops for 3 months. I'm getting sick of being it.
It must be a frightful way of living, Mr. Keene.
Well, it ain't no bed of petunias, Mrs. Sanders, but we'll skip that. I wanted to ask you about the little lady.
Oh, Miss Phyllis.
Yeah. Dax tells me she ain't doing so well.
No. She's been crippled ever since the baby was born.
Oh, gee, that's tough. You know, I was in on the first part of that little lady's trouble. I've always kind of wondered about it.
You saved her life right after she had the baby, Mr. Keene. If you hadn't gone for the film, we'd have lost her then.
That wasn't too much to do. I just happened to be handy at the time. Any guy would have done it.
I'm not so sure. That was just about the time your gambling rooms were raided, and it had been safer for you to have left than not come back.
Hey, I couldn't take a run-out powder on the little lady at a time like that.
That's why it was such a fine thing to do. You put her problem ahead of your own.
Will you forget that? You'll have me thinking I'm a great guy. I know I'm a mug.
Well, where Phyllis is concerned, I'll always think you're a great guy, Mr. Cheney.
Well, thanks, Mrs. Sanders, but I wish you'd spell me some more about it. Will this fancy doctor come up to see be able to help us?
I guess we'll never know if he could have helped her or not.
What do you mean by that?
I wasn't able to see him tonight.
How come? Was he out?
No, he was in his room. But he wouldn't let me come up and talk to him.
Why, that big palooka? You mean to say he turned you down for...
I didn't speak directly to the doctor. I spoke to his secretary. He told me the doctor had retired.
Does that mean he hit the hay?
Yes, and he and his secretary are leaving on the 6 o'clock train tomorrow for New York.
Mm-hmm. Why are they going to the big town?
The doctor's returning to Switzerland, sailing a few hours after he reaches New York.
Oh, he is? Listen, Mrs. Sanders, do you think that guy can cure the little lady?
I don't know. He's considered to be one of the finest specialists in the world for spinal ailments.
Oh, that's her trouble. Spinal stuff, huh?
Mm-hmm. The nerve centers that control the use of her legs seem to be paralyzed.
She have to stay in bed?
No, she gets around a little in a wheelchair, but lately she seems to be growing weaker.
Guess she can't look after her kids then, huh?
No, not at all. Both of them have been at the clinic ever since she came home from the hospital.
That must be tough on a woman.
Mr. Cheney, I think it's the greatest sorrow any woman can have. Phyllis is such a sweet little mother. Danny and her babies are her whole world.
She's just a kid herself. What does that doctor in Sanders say about it?
John thinks her case is pretty hopeless.
And how come he recommends the other doctor?
Well, he didn't. Mr. Barton, the man who's building the new factory in Sanders, told us about him. Then we asked Dr. Benzini. He said if anyone could help her, this Dr. DeRoy might be the one.
What does the little lady think?
Phyllis is positive he can help her. That's the whole trouble. She's read about the cases he has cured, and it's given her so much confidence in him that I'm afraid she's never had faith in any other doctor.
Well, then, he's going to have to see her.
But I can't reach him.
No, well, you quit worrying, Mrs. Sanders. I'm in on this now. There's one thing I'm kind of handy at. It's reaching guys that can't be reached.
Cheney, what are you up to now? You've made us a little leery with that boast about being handy at reaching people who can't be reached. Surely you wouldn't attempt to use gangster methods on Dr. DeRoy. We sincerely hope you'll think twice before you do anything impulsive that may cause Mary a great deal more trouble than she has now. The Life of Mary Southern, the poignant story of a young married woman and the problems she faces in her marriage to a lovable old hoodlum. Mary Southern comes to you each weekday at the same time with the best wishes of Ipana toothpaste. Today we make you a free offer. It's a free offer of a trial-size tube of Ipana, I-P-A-N-A, Ipana, the famous toothpaste that's made especially for gum massage as well as for cleaning and brightening your teeth. Why are we making this free offer? Because we want each of you to prove to yourself that what we've said almost every day on this program is absolutely true. This is what we've said. That the very first time you use Ipana and massage, you feel a tang, a tingling sensation that you get only from Ipana and massage. Now this tang, of course, tells you that you are stimulating your gums, waking up circulation, just as a brisk rub-down wakes up circulation throughout your body. And what does that stimulation mean? I probably don't have to tell you. But it means that Ipana and massage helps make your gums firmer and healthier. And that's the very basis of brighter teeth and a lovelier smile. We say when you first use Ipana with massage, you feel that exclusive tang. But we also say you don't have to take our word for it. We say, prove it yourself. And because of our free offer, it won't cost you a cent. Here's all you do to get your trial-size tube of Ipana free. Just send your name and address on a penny postcard, if you like, to Ipana, I-P-A-N-A, Ipana, care of the station to which you are listening. The address again is Ipana, care of the station to which you are listening. Send for your trial tube of Ipana today and discover the Ipana way to healthier gums, brighter teeth, and a more radiant smile.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Dragnet is brought to you by Chesterfield, made by Liggett & Myers, first major tobacco company to bring you a complete line of quality cigarettes.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to Bunko Fugitive Detail. A confidence man has set up operations in your city. The product he's selling has a ready market. Perfect cut blue-white diamonds. Your job? Stop him. Today, you hear these three words everywhere. Chesterfield's for me. The cigarette tested and approved by 30 years of scientific tobacco research. Chesterfield's for me. The cigarette with a proven good record with smokers. And first cigarette to have such a record. Chesterfield's for me. Chesterfield gives you proof of highest quality, low nicotine. The taste you want, the mildness you want. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. And best for you.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, November 9th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of Bunko Fugitive Detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Didion. My name's Friday. I was on my way back from the record division, and it was 11:40 a.m. when I got to room 38. Bunko Detail.
Did it check out?
Yeah, there's 3 possibles. Descriptions don't match too well. We'll have to check them all out, I guess.
Uh-huh. Too bad it was just in. Said he'd give us a hand.
That's good. Shall we get on it?
Yeah.
Any calls?
No, let's go.
I got it. Bunko Fugitive, Friday. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Well, I'm not sure. No, the officer that handled the case isn't here right now. I wonder if I could take a message. Yes, ma'am. He'll call you when he gets in. All right, uh-huh. Yes, all right. If you'll wait just a minute, I'll transfer it just a minute. Hold on, please. Would you give this call to 2949, please? Thank you.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
This the fraud department?
Was a Bunko Fugitive? Yes, sir.
Then I guess this is what I want. I'd like to report a swindle.
All right, sir.
I'll check with the battle, Joe. You can go to work on this list.
Right.
I'll be right back.
Okay. You want to come in, sir? Sit down right here if you like.
Okay. Well, where'd be the best place to start?
Would you like to give us your name, sir?
It's Harold Filson. That's with an F. F-I-L-S-O-N, Filson.
Yes, sir.
What I want to tell you about happened to a friend of mine.
All right.
He's a little too embarrassed to come in himself, so I said I'd tell you about it. It's a terrible thing. Should be stopped.
All right, sir. We'll do what we can. You want to tell us what it's all about?
Well, this friend of mine was in the bank one day. He'd gone in to make a withdrawal, $200.
I see.
On the way out of the place, this kind of seedy-looking man came up to my friend and started to talk.
Did your friend know the man?
Never saw him before in his life.
All right, sir. Go ahead.
Well, this little guy said he had a business proposition to put to my friend. Said they could both make a lot of money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
The little guy suggested that the both of them walk down the street to a little coffee stand that's there and have a cup of coffee. My friend didn't see anything wrong with that, so they did. That's where the little guy told the story.
What was that, sir?
Oh, about how he was a DP, a displaced person.
Mm-hmm.
Said he'd come over from Belgium. Big story about how he just managed to get out of Germany with his life. Really laid it on thick, real thick.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he pulled the snapper. Said that he got into the country illegally, that he didn't have any papers, and that's why he came to my friend.
I see. Go ahead.
And see, this little guy reached into his pocket, took out a couple of pieces of folded paper. He undid them, and there were 4 diamonds. Most beautiful thing you ever saw.
Mm-hmm.
Fellow went on to say that since he was in the country without a passport, he couldn't take the chance to try and sell the diamonds, said he might be picked up. So he wanted to sell the stones to my friend. Said he wouldn't have any trouble getting rid of them.
Well, how much did he want for them, do you know?
Said he'd sell a lot for $13,000.
It's quite a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, especially when this friend of mine doesn't know anything about diamonds.
All right, sir. You want to go ahead?
Well, the little guy said my friend could take the stones to any jeweler and have them appraised. Said he'd go along with whatever the jeweler said.
And that's what your friend did, then?
Yeah. Went to one of the best jewelry stores in the city. Took the stones with him and had the jeweler look at them.
Now, this little man, did he go into the store with your friend?
No, he said he'd wait outside.
Uh-huh.
Well, the jeweler looked at the stones and said they were worth $15,000. That's wholesale. $15,000.
So your friend bought the diamonds, did he?
Yes. He offered the owner $10,000 cash for them. The little guy wouldn't go for the deal, so he took the diamonds back. They hemmed and hawed around for a couple of minutes, and then he said he'd sell. So both of them went to my friend's bank, got the money, and the deal was set. The little man reached into his pocket, took out the package, handed over the diamonds for the $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Then my friend tried to sell them. He went back to the same jeweler. And that's when he found out.
Yeah?
They weren't the same stones. My friend had gotten a different packet. Instead of diamonds, he bought 4 zircons, worth $25, $30 apiece. $10,000 for $120 worth of cut glass. And you've got to do something about it. You've got to figure some way to get that money back.
All right. You want to give us a description of the man who sold you the phony?
How'd you know?
Well, you aren't the only one who's been taken by this racket. There have been several cases the last few months.
That's all the more reason you ought to get him. $10,000, that's what he took me for. That's real easy money.
Well, the only difference is the amount, isn't it?
What do you mean?
You tried to take 5 the same way. Frank came back to the office, and I filled him in on the story Harold Filson had given me. The victim gave us a complete statement and a description of the man who'd victimized him. He also gave us the address of the bank where he'd been approached. After that, Filson was taken down to the mudroom and shown photographs of known confidence men who had used the same M.O. A local and an APB were gotten out, carrying the description of the suspect as well as a complete description of the clothes he wore and the method he used in approaching the intended victim. We got the name of the jeweler who had appraised the diamonds, and we asked the victim if we could keep the stones until we'd finished our investigation. He gave us his consent, and we signed a receipt for the zircons. 1:46 p.m., Frank and I drove out to the Hollywood area where we talked to Saul Maurice, the owner of the jewelry store.
If you'll wait, I'll get my loot and check them for you.
We'd appreciate that.
No trouble. Probably should have known there was something wrong when I came in here. The average man doesn't carry $15,000 in unset diamonds around with him. Let me see the stone.
Sure, here you are. Take a look at these, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Well, the same ones, same as diamonds.
What can you tell us about them?
Well, they look as if they were cut in this country.
Yeah? Why do you say that?
Facets, they're cut longer than European stones.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Now, they were made in America.
Is there any way we could tell where?
No. Whoever did it, though, knew what he was doing. I remember the diamonds. Beautiful.
You mean the real diamonds were just like these, then, huh?
Yes, there was a 125 round, 2 1-carat marquee, and a 403 square cut.
You sure about the size, are you?
Reasonably, yes. I didn't weigh them at the time, but I did use a mo gauge on them. That's what they checked out.
You can't give us any idea, then, where the zircons might have come from?
No, I'm sorry. I can give you a list of the men in Los Angeles who might have done it.
We'd appreciate it.
No trouble at all. You want to take these with you?
Yes, sir.
Say, I don't understand. Why would a legitimate diamond cutter make these imitations?
Well, if a person ordered them copied, there'd be no reason not to. Quite often, people don't like to wear genuine stones. Occasions when good imitations do just as well. That's what probably happened here.
Uh-huh.
Whoever it was probably ordered a melange lot. I went ahead with it.
Well, now the stones he brought in the first time were real, weren't they?
Yes, fine, high color, beautifully cut. Especially this square. I'll get those names for you.
Thank you.
Say, I wonder if you'd tell me something.
Well, what's that?
Well, my wife's been looking for something to clean her engagement ring. You know, it gets dirty down the little prongs that hold the diamond. I wonder if you could recommend something to clean it.
I'll tell you what, next time you're in the area, bring the ring in. I'll be glad to clean it for you.
Well, the problem there is she doesn't want to take it off, I guess. I don't think she'd go for me taking it all day.
Well, I'll tell her to take it into the jeweler in the neighborhood. He'll be glad to do it.
Thanks, sure appreciate it.
No trouble at all. Now, here's the list.
Thank you.
Sure hope you can find the man who sold the phonies.
Yes, sir, so do we.
Every time somebody gets stung buying diamonds, it makes them leery from then on. Hard on legitimate people in the business.
Yes, sir, we can understand that.
Jewelers Alliance has been saying it for a long time. Know your jeweler and you'll get value received. A guy like this makes it twice as rough on honest men.
Well, that's the way it is most of the time.
Always seems like the honest ones get hurt.
Well, maybe not always.
What?
I hope it's going to work the other way this time. 3:15 p.m. Frank and I returned to the office and got out a supplemental bulletin on the genuine diamonds that were being used. We checked with Captain Didion, and he assigned 2 more officers to help us in checking out the list of diamond cutters in the area. The questioning took the better part of the next day, and at 4:37 p.m., when we met in the bunco squad room, we were no further ahead with the apprehension of the suspect. During the week that followed, we continued to talk to the lapidaries in the Southland area, but they were unable to give us any leads as to who might have made the copies. On Monday, November 22nd, we received another complaint. An elderly woman who identified herself as Mrs. Myra Hacken told us that she'd been swindled out of $12,000. The story she gave us was almost identical with the one we'd gotten from Harold Filson. The description of the suspect was the same. Frank and I talked to the jeweler that had made the appraisal on the stones for her. He was unable to give us any concrete information. However, the zircons purchased by Mrs. Hacken were identical with those bought by the first victim, Filson. 2 more weeks passed, and in that time, the confidence man hit 2 more citizens. The method of approach was the same. The story he gave the victims was the same. Nothing in the story was new. The search for him went on. On Wednesday, December 1st, Captain Didion called a meeting in his office.
Come in. Sit down.
Right.
Thanks. Now, what's it about, Skipper?
You know what it is. Where are you on it? Oh, the diamond switch, huh?
That's it. Going slow, Captain.
Well, what's the score to date? About $45,000, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know closer to the guy than when he started.
Well, we got a description.
We can't book that.
We're doing everything we can, Captain. We talked to all the victims, all the people in town who might know who he is. There isn't a rumble.
He must be playing it single. None of the usual sources know anything.
How about the money? Anybody spending more than they can account for?
No, not that we've been able to turn.
Stats office?
Well, they've given us a list of possibles, 14 of them. They've all been checked out, none of them fit.
What about the Jewelers Association? What do they got for you?
Well, they're doing all they can. They put out a notice to all their members to be on the lookout for the guy. Sent out a description to all the diamond cutters asking for information on the stones.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a composite drawing made of the suspect. M.O. sheet. It's been sent to all the banks in the area. Nothing back on it, though.
Well, what's the answer? Got to be some way of nailing him.
Well, we got an idea. The odds are on the long side, I guess, but it's about the only way that we can think of.
Let's hear it.
Well, we know that the guys work in the Hollywood area pretty heavy. Seems that most of the marks he picks are out there. They do business in those banks along the boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
We thought that if we could spot a couple of undercover people in the banks and make it look like they were doing business there, they might be approached.
You meant it when you said the odds were long. How many people do you figure you're going to need for this?
Well, we figure a minimum of a half a dozen. They all should be middle-aged or elderly. Suspect doesn't seem to bother anybody under 40.
How about keeping in touch with the undercover people? How do you figure to work that?
Well, we thought we could cruise the area, work out some kind of a check system so we'd know what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll get in touch with Chief Brown. Ask him to line up some officers that'll work the banks. You better get in touch with Hollywood. Fill them in on what you're doing. Might ask for a couple of F cars to give you a hand in the surveillance.
Right, Skipper.
We'll get together here in the morning. You can brief them on what you want, how you're going to work it out.
Okay.
Better notify the banks, too. Give them the setup so there won't be any slip.
All right.
Excuse me. Bunco fugitive, Captain Didion. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll send them right up. That's right. Do what you can. Here's one to move on. Bank on Hollywood Boulevard. Head cashier says there's been a man loitering in the place for the last 30 minutes.
Yeah?
Matches the description of your suspect right down the line.
The man had been detained until we got there. We were told that the suspect had entered the bank at approximately 11:40 a.m. and that he'd been observed by the bank guard. When the man's movements had aroused the guard's suspicions, he'd notified the cashier, and he in turn had called us when he noticed the similarity between the suspect and our bulletin. We asked the suspect to step out to our car so we could question him. He appeared to have been drinking, but he was cooperative. He got into the back seat with Frank, and we asked him to show us his wallet.
Hey, my wallet.
Is there any money in it?
Well, I don't know if that's any of your business.
You got any money in the wallet?
Well, it might be a couple of bucks, yes. Then again, on the other side of the fence, there might not.
All right, mister. Take the money out and hand the wallet to me.
Ain't none. I'm broke.
All right, let's have it.
Sure, I like to cooperate. Always like to cooperate.
All right. Is your true name Samuel Gerald Pugh?
That is correct.
Ever been arrested?
That, gentleman, is my life story.
Is that right?
It certainly is. Many's the happy hour I've spent in your main jail. Delightful place. Referred to in the trade as the Gray Bar Hotel, you know.
Yeah, what was the charge?
I believe that's referred to in the trade as a 4127 ALAMC.
Drunk, huh?
Oh, now, if you don't mind, officer, rather you wouldn't put it just that way. It sounds so completely undignified. Completely.
What were you doing in that bank?
Then I spent a short vacation with the sheriff out in Castaic. Ah, that was a charming resort.
Look, what were you doing in the bank?
Then I spent a short vacation with the sheriff out in Castaic. Ah, that's a charming
Why
resort.
were you in the bank?
I've also enjoyed the hospitality of the authorities in San Francisco, Oakland, and in Beaumont,
now, you look, mister,
Texas.
we're not playing a game with you here. You come up with some straight answers and come up with them fast.
Sir?
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to the best of my ability to answer your questions in the order that you present them. Now, I'm still working on the initial one, you understand? Would you like to know why I spent so much time...
Look, you know what we want to know. We want to know why you're in that bank.
Very well, then I shall tell you. I have spent all of this time in gathering material for a treatise on the penal colonies in
All right,
America.
Frank, let's go. Yeah, come on, mister. Get on your feet.
Oh, here now, listen, I resent this treatment, and furthermore, I intend to expose your methods in my forthcoming book.
Yeah.
Yes. Realize, officer, that I've given you fair warning. You going to book me again?
That's right.
Drunk?
We'll figure that when we get you downtown.
Well, that's all you've got. I didn't really do it. You can't book a man to just think about it.
Is that right?
I didn't really do it. I'll just think about it.
What are you talking about?
What I was doing in the bank. I'm broke and I'm hungry. I just got into town this morning. I arrived amid the sunshine of glorious California. Broke and hungry. So I ambled around a bit and went into the bank. I thought maybe I'd write a little check. Just enough to tide me over until I decide to accept one of the many offers that have been offered me.
You got any money in the bank?
Oh, that's a trivial detail. However, inasmuch as you gentlemen are willing to accord me the hospitality of the Gray Bar Hotel, I shall accept with alacrity.
Well, that's nice.
I am gratified that you appreciate my position.
You got any way of proving you just got in town?
Is that necessary?
Might be for you.
I shall have no trouble in supplying such gratification.
Yeah.
I have been enjoying the hospitality of the largest state for the past 3 months. I severed my connection with them 2 days ago.
Is that right?
It certainly is. I, officer, have been in jail for the past 3 months.
Yeah.
In Beaumont, Texas.
The suspect was taken to the city hall and held for further investigation. Teletypes were sent to the authorities in Texas, and they verified the story that we'd gotten. The suspect was booked in violation of 4127A LAMC. The following morning, Frank and I, along with Captain Didion, briefed the police officers chosen by Chief Brown. We told them the suspect's M.O. We gave each of them copies of the composite drawing that had been made. At 10:30 that morning, the plan was put into operation. It continued through the weekend without results. During that time, we received no new complaints regarding the confidence man. Wednesday, December 8th, Frank and I checked into the office.
I want to call Faye. Tell her what time I'll be home.
Okay. You want to check the book while you're there?
Yeah.
I got it. Bunko Fugitive, Friday. Yeah. Okay, where? Yeah, we know where that is. Right. See you there. Guess you'll have to call Faye later.
What do you mean?
Suspect.
Yeah?
He's setting up a mark in a coffee shop out on Hollywood Boulevard right now.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
Meet the Tom Harmons. You know Tom is an All-American, and now a top sports announcer. Mrs. Harmon is the motion picture and television star Elise Knox. They're typical of people everywhere who are saying, Chesterfields for me.
I like regular-sized Chesterfields. Have for years. They're best for me, at least I think so, because of that Chesterfield quality.
That's the way I feel about them, too. I've always smoked Chesterfields. Now I go for the king size. Guess I like a longer smoke.
So whether you smoke regular size like Elise Knox or king size like Tom Harmon, enjoy America's most popular two-way cigarette. Chesterfields for me. You hear it everywhere. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. And best for you.
The call had come from one of the undercover people that we'd planted in the banks on Hollywood Boulevard. The policewoman told me that a man answering the description had approached her and offered to sell her some unset diamonds. The suspect had suggested that they have a cup of coffee while he explained the deal to the victim. After they'd reached the coffee shop, the policewoman excused herself and put in the call to us. It took us 18 minutes to drive to Hollywood and Vine Streets and to get to the coffee shop. When we entered the place, we could see the policewoman at one of the rear tables. Frank and I walked back and sat down in the adjoining booth. They'd evidently been talking for several minutes before we got there.
You can understand my position. I don't want to have to let them go, but I have no choice.
Well, I'm still not sure why you don't sell them yourself.
There is some trouble about my passport. The authorities are checking it over. If I try to dispose of the diamonds in the usual channels, there are bound to be questions I can't answer.
I'm not sure I want to be mixed up in a thing like this. I've never had any trouble with the law. My husband would be pretty angry if he knew about this.
But there will be no trouble. None. The reason I decided to even bother you with this is that I have seen you several times in the bank. You look to me like a person who would understand and want to help.
Oh, that's very kind.
It is you who are being kind, to even let me talk to you. I wish I could tell you how much it means to me to be able to walk up to just anyone on the street and talk. To know that there is nothing to be afraid of. This business about the passport is annoying, but it will all be straightened out. After that, everything will be all right.
Well, can't you wait until then to sell the diamonds?
I'm afraid not. I have bills. I must pay my attorney, my family. They must be taken care of. I need the money now.
Well, I'm still not sure.
Kind lady, let me show you the gems. Just let me show them to you and then decide.
Hasn't? Coffee, please.
Yeah, coffee. 2 coffees right away.
There. Just look at them. Have you ever seen anything so beautiful in your life?
Well, they are nice.
These are all we were able to get out of the country. Weeks before we left, we sold everything we owned to buy them. You know, in Europe, diamonds are about the only thing that has a set value. If I were to tell you the trouble we had in getting them, but that would take too long, and I have already taken too much of your time.
Not at all. How much are you asking for them?
On the market, they are worth in American dollars at least $10,000.
Well, I could never pay that much for them.
But you would not have to.
I don't understand.
It is simple. You take them to any jeweler in the city, anyone at all. You pick him out. Take the diamonds to him, ask him what they are worth. Then come back to me and we can make the transaction. You see what he will offer you for them. You will see that what I have said is the truth. You can buy them from me. I will get the money I need. Then you can sell them to the same jeweler and make a handsome profit. Go ahead, take them. I will wait for you here.
You'll trust me with them?
Certainly. I knew when I saw you in the bank I could depend on you. I trust you with my life savings.
All right, let's go.
Yeah. Something I can do for you, gentlemen?
Police officers, you're under arrest.
On what charge?
Grand theft.
You must be joking.
Afraid not. Let's go.
You get everything you needed, Sergeant Friday?
Yeah, thanks, Margaret.
You are in with them?
I'm a police officer, too.
How you going to know?
I'll take the diamonds. Want to give us the zircons, too?
Yeah. Here you are. A lousy deal. You're going to have to prove it, you know.
We'll take care of that.
How you going to do it?
Well, it shouldn't be too tough. Have the victims take a look at you. They should give us a positive identification, shouldn't they?
Yeah, I guess so.
Where'd you get the stones?
Picked them up in New York. They're real. Worth easily $13,000, maybe $14,000.
How about the imitations?
What about?
Well, where'd you get them?
Friend of mine, guy back east. His hobby is life, you know.
Lapidary?
Yeah, that's it. I had him cut the zircons for me.
Do you know why you wanted them?
No, I told him it was for a joke, asking to make me 6 sets. All of them like the real ones. Only had this one and one more to get rid of. Just 2 more, and you have to tag me. Yeah, rough go.
You need me for anything more, Sergeant?
No, thanks, Margaret. We'll take him in.
I'll go on, then.
Right, thanks again.
Glad to help.
Thanks, Margaret.
Yeah, see you downtown.
Right. Tell Chief Brown we'll be in to see him, will you?
Okay.
All right, mister, let's go.
Mind if I finish my coffee?
All right, make it fast.
Okay, thanks.
What's your name?
Nathan Croner.
You ever fallen before?
Couple of times, small beefs.
Where?
Midwest, Colorado, Kansas.
Big time?
Burglary. Served 3 years in Colorado, 2 in Kansas. Thought you had it figured this time. Sure way to make it pay. Never know, do you?
What's that?
How it's going to turn out. Take this Dodge, for instance.
Yeah.
Hey, you got a cigarette?
Yeah, here you go. Here.
Thanks. I got a match. You know, this would never work if you tried it with honest people.
Is that right?
Sure. Right off, I told him I was having trouble with my passport. Even told one of them I was in the country illegally. That's when he should have gone to the cops right then.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna miss that.
What's that?
The coffee. Gonna miss it. Anyway, if every one of them didn't have a little thievery in them, isn't a con game in the world it'd work. You ever think of that?
Yeah, once in a while.
I hand over a bunch of diamonds. Now, I know they're worth a minimum of $15,000. Worth that anywhere in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? The mark takes them into a jeweler and finds out they're worth that much, and right away he's out to try to make a fast buck for himself. He comes back, tells me they're only good for $10,000. You see? Thieves.
Mm-hmm. You about finished with that coffee?
Yeah. Now, the mark stands to make himself a couple of $1,000 going in, but that isn't enough. He's going to take me for more. It wouldn't work if they weren't thieves at heart.
Well, that still doesn't give you the right to take them.
I suppose not. I get a real kick, though, out of figuring what they look like when they find out they're stuck with a handful of cut glass. Must be real yaks to see that luck.
Now, how about that coffee? Come on, let's go.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you.
All right. You pull this Dodge anyplace else in the country?
Not me. There's the first place. Figured if I scored good here, I could take it easy. You know, work a bit, maybe once a year in a different city. Keep moving. Don't make any difference how they talk or what kind of clothes they wear. A mark's still a mark. I just had a bad deal. Going good. I could have lived off of it for years.
That's what you wanted, huh?
Yeah, just a deal to keep me in clothes and food. Roof over my head, nothing big.
Well, it all worked out then, didn't it?
What?
That's what you're going to get. Come on.
The story you have just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On April 15th, trial was held in Department 98, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. You know, the Chesterfield you smoked today is the best cigarette ever made, and best for you. Now, that's a fact. And to my way of thinking, it's the very reason for you to change to Chesterfield. Try 'em either way, regular or king size. If you try 'em, I think you'll say with all of us, Chesterfield's for me.
Nathan Austin Croner was tried and found guilty on 4 counts of grand theft and received punishment as prescribed by law. Grand theft is punishable by imprisonment for a period of not more than 1 year in the county jail, or for a period of not less than 1 nor more than 10 years in the state penitentiary.
Ladies and gentlemen, crime has reached a new high. Over 2 million major crimes were committed last year in the United States. You and your loved ones, your lives and property are threatened. Now, during National Crime Prevention Week, the National Exchange Clubs urge you to act to protect yourself and your country. Go to church this Sunday and every Sunday. The nation needs the great moral vitality which springs from church-going men and women. And remember to be alert and be on the lookout for ways to prevent crime. help your police force and your community reduce the crime rate.
Just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Harry Bartell, Virginia Gregg. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Watch an entirely different Dragnet case history each week on your local NBC television station. Please check your newspapers for the day and time. Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Filter tip smokers, this is it. L&M Filters. The one filter tip cigarette with plenty of good taste. Much more flavor, much less nicotine, and effective filtration. Only the L&M filter contains the miracle product alpha cellulose. Absolutely pure, non-mineral, harmless to health. Yes, this is it. As Maurice Evans puts it, L&M filters are just what the doctor ordered. Buy L&M filters, the light and mild smoke.
Hear Rocky Fortune following John Cameron Swayze and the news on the NBC Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the American Broadcasting Company brings to its entire network one of radio's most unusual programs. Pat Novak, For Hire.
Sure. I'm Pat Novak. For hire. That's what the sign out in front of my office says. Pat Novak for hire. You don't get in the blue book that way, but you don't embarrass your friends either. Because down on the waterfront in San Francisco, they don't separate the good and the bad. They let them run together. And before long, you got a caste system. You're either alive or dead. If you're on top, you keep fading the crowd and trying for sevens until you lose the dice. It's not the only way to play it, unless you like worms. I rent boats and do anything else that'll put a fast handle on a buck. But it doesn't always work out because down here, all your luck is junior grade and trouble is trumps. I found that out Tuesday night. It was the first time I ever saw Reuben Calloway, and the last time, too, if you like to keep a tidy record. It was about 7 o'clock, and I just started back across the bay from Sausalito. You could still see Mount Tamalpais squatting on the Marin shore, light brown near the top, but dark and black farther down, like a cupcake that's been in the oven a little too long. A low fog was beginning to squeeze in on the far side, so I kicked in the searchlight, and that's when I picked him up. He was struggling feebly with his face near the water, and he was almost bald, so that when the light hit him, he looked like a cantaloupe that somebody got tired of. I pulled alongside and started to haul him aboard. He brought most of the bay with him.
Help me. Please help me.
Yeah, well, wait till I get a hold of you, will you? Come on. There. Sit down. No, here. Lean against the gunnel.
Yeah, thanks.
Is the water red or you've been shot a little?
Do you have to know everything?
No, it's your load. Carry it, mister.
Yeah.
Move your feet. I got to get us ashore.
If you like it, go ahead. But don't hurry for me.
Well, if you feel that way about it, pick another spot to die in. Go back in the bay where you'll have company.
You've got to help me. I want you to get in touch with a girl named Alma Biggs.
Yeah?
You'll find her at the Empire Club out on Geary Street. My name's Reuben Calloway. Tell her about me. She'll pay you for it.
What'd she do, collect bodies?
Just give her this key. It's for a locker down in the bus station.
Now, look, Pop, you don't know me. Suppose I use the key.
You can't spend it. You better take the money.
All right.
Just see Alma and tell her it didn't work out. It didn't work out for me at all. I guess that's right, huh?
On the big things, you're 100%.
I don't need a check. Oh.
Here, set up. I told you I don't want you dying in here.
Stop beefing, fella. You don't have all the bad luck.
They must have sent a fast chariot, because when I leaned over, the guy was dead. And he was working hard at it, too. He was a skinny little guy, all bent up and twisted in the bottom of the boat like an old paper clip. It wouldn't do any good to straighten him out, because he wasn't going to sleep easy. His eyes were open and rolling around at the sky as if he was on the make for a star. And the skin hung loose around his face so that when you touched it, it felt like an empty baked potato. I pushed him into a corner and started for Pier 19. When I got there, I hauled him on the dock and went down to call homicide. Must have been about 8:30 when I took a cab out to the Empire Club. It was a gambling joint out on Geary Street where they cut their whiskey and cards in different rooms. I asked the guy at the window if he knew Alma Biggs, and he pointed her out by the roulette table. She was wearing a white satin evening gown, and as I walked up behind her, I noticed she moved in rhythm with the roulette wheel. It was interesting. If it had been a merry-go-round, they'd have pinched her. I squeezed in next to her at the table, and I was thinking of trying it again when she started to talk.
It's a tight fit. Are you sure you like it?
I'm not going to stay long.
That's what Rudolph Hess said.
Make your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Gamblers, make your bets.
Stake me, Alma.
I can't afford you, darling.
Well, go broke for Reuben Calloway, then. 4 on the red.
I ought to keep you for luck, darling. Will you comb your hair?
I'll take the chips. They'd look bad on Calloway.
Oh. It's too crowded here. Let's find a closet.
All right.
Did he look pretty?
For a fish, he was all right.
Who are you?
Pat Novak. I picked him up in the bay. He said to look you up and tell you it didn't work out.
That would please Turk.
Yeah? Who's Turk?
The reason it didn't work out. Is that all, Mr. Novak?
Except for a key. It fits a bus station locker here.
You keep it, Mr. Novak.
It won't buy anything. Now, look, sweetheart, I picked up your boy and dried him out, but that's all. We were small friends at best, so the services stopped.
You can come to a slow stop for $200. Take the key and pick up what's in that locker. I'll get it from you later.
Yeah?
I'll meet you in an hour. Where's a good place? Your apartment?
Well, it's a place.
I'll find it in the book. I hope you don't mind.
No, the thin walls will save me. What's in the locker?
What would it prove?
Proves you got a small mouth, Angel.
Unless you're going to kiss it, don't worry. 9:30 then?
All right.
I'll bring the 200 with me.
Don't worry about the dough.
Oh?
Because I scooped your chips off the table. See you later. She stood there watching me as I walked over to the cashier's window. She gave you a nice warm feeling like a Bunsen burner in the middle of your back. And as she stood there in the center of the floor smiling, you knew she could turn a glacier into a steam bath at 400 yards. A nice little mouse that made you want to go home and test all the old traps. Well, I cashed in her chips, and the boy at the window shoved out 200 rocks in a pained look as if he'd just handed over his right lung. I got a cab and rode down to the bus station at 7th and Market. There were a few people sitting at the counter and a couple of old men on the benches waiting for somebody to get up and leave the funny papers. I went over near the wall and opened up the locker. It was a long trip for a small package. It was a square manila envelope and was an address up in the corner. Reuben Calloway, photographer. I squeezed the envelope and it felt like photographs, but I wasn't sure. I started to close the locker when I turned, and And then I tumbled for the first time. It's like getting a drop of rain on your hand before you ever look up at the sky. The two of them were standing over by the cigar counter watching me. A guy with a heavy overcoat and a little small guy about the size of a hangnail. It wouldn't do any good to sit down because I knew they'd stay until somebody condemned the building, so I walked past them out onto the street. There was a cab standing right in front.
Cab, mister?
Yeah. Swing up toward the St. Francis, will you?
Yeah,
Now, look, you're going to be tailed, so brush up on your alleys.
if you like it that way.
Hey, you were supposed to take a left there on Mission.
I got a license. Where's yours?
I told you to double back over Market.
Look, get out and walk if you don't like it. I've been bought, mister.
Oh, my two friends.
That's right. You should have come first.
I ought to part your hair.
You got more chance with them. Here we are.
Where you going?
You like alleys, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Take it easy, fella. You're not going anywhere.
You were nice while you lasted.
Take it easy. You better walk up a wall. They'll block the alley. See?
Crowded alley, huh?
Yeah.
Give me the envelope so we can all get out.
Can Junior help you?
Give me the envelope. There. Now see it. Yeah, it's still sealed.
You all through?
I don't know. I'll see. You like him, Joe?
No.
That's the way it is, mister. He don't like you.
I slid down like an old sock on a bony leg. I rolled over a couple of times and tried to stand up, but it wasn't easy. You might as well try to find a hair in a bowl of chop suey. Well, it began to rain, and I figured it'd be easier to float out to the street, so I went to sleep. When I woke up, the rain hadn't helped the alley much. It's like washing your kid's face and finding out he was ugly to start with. The mud had washed up against the walls, and there was a thick, sour smell, and down the alley across the street there was a part of a sign sticking out that said, Eats. And that isn't what you felt like at all. I started groping around to get up, and my hand hit the pictures. They were scattered all over like clothes in a boarding school. I picked them up and started for the street. On the way up in the cab, I got a chance to look at them, and they didn't make sense. There were 6 of them, and they were all just about the same, a bunch of mob scenes of that fire over in Oakland. I didn't have time to figure it out because the cab pulled up in front of the St. Francis, and I went in to call Alma Biggs and tell her the party was off. Part of that alley must have come with me, because when I walked into the lobby, the doorman looked at me as if I'd just blown up a nunnery. I tried the number once, but nobody answered. I decided to wait 20 minutes and call again. That was a mistake, because I just got in the booth and started to dial when somebody started rapping on the door with a nickel. It was Hellman from Homicide.
Hello, Novak. Come on out. You can't get a date in that suit.
What do you want, Hellman?
Come on out. You're a hard man to find.
Well, you don't look in the right places.
I'm a family man. Tell me about the dead guy.
I don't know, Hellman. He died in my boat. That's all I know.
He didn't say anything?
Just sentimental stuff. His name's Reuben Calloway. Somebody threw him in the bay without instructions. I don't know a thing about him except he takes pictures.
Yeah?
Oh, wipe off the drool. They're not your kind.
Who are his friends?
He's got new ones by now. I don't know, Hellman.
How about that guy up in your couch?
Huh?
I just left your place. How about that guy on the couch?
There's a gal up there, but that's all.
Does she wear suspenders?
Huh?
Then take my word, it's a man.
And you're going to tell me he's dead, Hellman.
No, I'm not going to tell you he's dead, Novak. He may be a soft breather.
When Hellman mentioned the stiff up at my place, I knew we were going to be in low gear the rest of the night because Hellman isn't an easy guy. He wouldn't give his wife an aspirin if she had concussion of the brain. He took me out the side door, and we rode up to my apartment. The dead guy was lying on the couch with his arms across his chest as if he wanted somebody to give him a lily or a way out of this. The lamp was shining down in his face, and the light was distorted, but when you stood over him, you could see his face was the color of pressed seaweed. If he had anything to be happy about, you couldn't tell, because his mouth was open and hung over to one side like a loose change purse filled with old teeth. His clothes were rumpled, and his shirt was open at his neck. You could see a chain around his neck and a silver medal in the dull light against his chest. It looked out of place and made you feel funny, like seeing a picture of a Madonna in a bowling alley. I watched him while Hellman made noise.
He still looks like a man.
Yeah? Who is he?
George Leggett.
What does that prove?
Who his mother was. We're checking for a record. The gun, too.
What gun?
One was lying here on the floor. I want to know if it's the same gun that killed Reuben Calloway.
Well, you'll need some prints.
Anybody can buy a handkerchief. Where were you tonight?
In an alley down near Mission Street.
You like it down there?
It's all right. You'd like it. I got shoved in and pushed around for these pictures.
They don't look like the right kind of pictures.
Well, I can't explain that, Hellman. Maybe they took the good ones.
How do you fit in?
Calloway gave me a key to a locker down on the bus station. It was for a girl named Alma Biggs.
And the girl sent you down?
That's right, with $200 running money. If you want to know about Calloway, look up a guy named Turk.
Turk what?
I don't know, Hellman. Maybe he's only got one name. Maybe the other was Stinker. You got a police file. Look him up. The girl mentioned him. That's all I know.
We'll look him up. But I'm not going to forget you. One guy's dead on Pier 19. Another up here in your apartment. You're mixed up, Novak. There's a connection. I'll shop around till I strike it.
You couldn't strike oil on a filling station. You got a double murder shop for a pair of people.
I'll shop far enough to get you, big shot. Far enough to see you fry.
Well, you got the lard for it, Hellman.
If you keep your mouth shut now, you can hold in the blood. Oh, Hellman talking. Yeah? Where'd you find out? That'd make it easier. You sure the same gun killed them both? Yeah. Yeah, I'll be in.
Well?
Huh? Oh. Wrong number, Novak.
They didn't give Hellman a sense of humor. They gave him a loud laugh instead. When he walked out of my place, he was smiling like a funny man who's just exposed Santa Claus. I didn't feel very funny myself. I took another look at those pictures, and I was as mixed up as a guy with a Mexican divorce. They were just ordinary pictures of a fire in Oakland. What made them so important? I was sure that Gunsel had taken some pictures, but, well, were they any different than those? And why was Alma Biggs afraid to pick them up? And who was a guy named Turk? I was full of questions, but no answers, like some guy at a peace conference. If I went over it any more, I'd be counting my toes. So I got out of there and looked up Jocko Madigan. Oh, he's a good guy, and he was a smart one, too, until he decided the only way you can get a good trade-in on hard luck is with a bottle of whiskey. I found him at Emilio's bar, patting Bill, the bartender, on the back with one hand and pouring jiggers of gin with the other.
At the tables down at Murray's, in the place where Louis dwells.
Jocko.
Ba, ba, ba. Gentlemen songsters off on a spree, doing from here to eternity.
Jocko, I want to talk to you.
Patsy, I'm driving a Harvard man crazy. He's at the end of the bar.
Well, stop drinking and listen to me.
I've got to keep on drinking, Patsy, if I want to preserve any continuity in my life, because I don't drink to forget, but rather to remember. To remember all the pleasant events of my life. There were two of them, I think.
All right, Jocko.
The first was a girl I met many twilights ago, and the second was a summer night in St. Louis when a bartender felt crazed with the heat and set him up on the house.
Will you stop it? I'm in trouble.
Memory is a blessed toy, Patsy. But you have to be careful because it can be dangerous, like giving a rifle to a small child for Christmas. It's true he can get some temporary pleasure out of it by shooting various neighbors, but sooner or later he's going to kill the only rich relative in the family.
Jocko, I'm tired.
And memory is the same way. So you're entitled to collect the few good ones you have. You're allowed to straighten them out and put them in order. After all, an old pool ball gets racked now and then.
You all through?
Yes. I've run out of memories.
Hellman thinks I killed two guys 10 miles apart.
Wasn't it difficult?
The same murder gun. The whole thing is tied up with some pictures.
In color?
A guy by the name of Reuben Calloway died in my boat. He gave me a key to a locker downtown. The pictures were there.
Is that one of them?
Yeah, take a look.
Oh, if it's a group picture, they were a very unruly family.
It's the Oakland fire. Two Gunsels followed me and took some of the pictures. In the meantime, some guy got shot in my place. Everybody's after the pictures. Why?
Have you seen the other pictures?
No, I took an intermission. That's why you got to help. Now, you'll find Reuben Calloway's address in the phone booth. Get up there and go through his stuff, will you?
It doesn't sound legal.
Neither's a bum murder rap. Get up there and go through his pictures. Try to find anything that'll fit in with his set.
Where are you you going besides jail?
I gotta find a gal named Alma Biggs.
Oh, you'll have trouble with a name like that. She's probably changed it.
The locker key was tabbed for her, but she hired me to run her errands.
Is she pretty?
Yes, if you like a fast track. Now get up there, Jocko.
Why can't I see her?
Will you stop it, Jocko? Just get up there. Forget about her. She'd scare you to death.
Yes. Well, at least I'd die hopeful. Good night, lover.
Well, finding Alma Biggs was quite a job. I knew she was around, but I couldn't get to her. It was like trying to get a peanut shell out of a back tooth. I called the Empire Club, but they didn't know anything about her. I went through all the phone books and the city directories, and I didn't get anything but a sore thumb. And I didn't do any better with the hotels. I sat in Lupo's and called them all one by one, and by 1 o'clock I knew more desk clerks than a vice squad cop, but no Alma Biggs. Finally, I went out to the Empire Club and started talking to the cabbies. About 15 minutes later, one pulled up and remembered taking a girl in a satin evening gown up to an apartment on the hill. I called Hellman and rode up there to check the names. Alma Biggs had an apartment on the second floor. I knocked on the door and she didn't answer, so I tried it. The lights were out, so I closed the door and groped over to the desk. I should have noticed the draperies as I passed because they were full of people.
Wait a minute.
All right, now.
Wait a minute, Mr. Novak. Stop breaking things. Someday you may want to mend me.
Do you always sleep in the curtains?
Do you always talk this long in the dark? Turn on the light.
Yeah.
I wanted to see who you were.
George Leggett, maybe.
Oh? Do you know him?
We're roommates. He died on my couch tonight.
Anything serious or just humdrum death?
He's satisfied. What do you know about him?
Well, I never heard anybody say a bad thing about him. Of course, I never heard anybody mention him.
Now, look, Angel, it's late. Who's George Leggett?
Why do you care?
Because homicide cares. They got Calloway and Leggett back to back, and they want my skin.
It's a nice skin, darling. Where are the pictures?
Unless you're a social worker, you're not going to like them here.
Let me see. They're not all here.
Yeah, I figured that.
Where are the other pictures, Patsy?
In some Gonoff's album. 2 of them jumped me down near Mission Street.
Who were they?
We never got that friendly.
Well, there couldn't have been 2 of them.
Well, maybe the little guy was just window dressing, but he gave the right answers.
Patsy, I think you're a liar.
You're nicer than homicide.
I want those pictures.
You do.
And I'm going to take them away from you.
And if I had them, that's a big enough gun to do it.
Get the pictures, Patsy.
It's a bad time for murder, Angel. Homicide's working this week.
I haven't time, Patsy. I'll push you down like a blade of grass. Get the pictures.
Now, look, sweetheart, I took a job for $200. It covers a tandem murder rap and a sapping down on Mission Street, but it won't cover big talk from you. Now, put the gun away or I'll bend you hard.
Don't move up when you talk.
You're around behind. Come on, give it to me.
Up it, Patsy.
Feels good. Let it go or take the pain. Drop it.
You don't have to hang on. I'm not a barbell.
You're handy now. Who's Turk?
Stop it. You're hurting my arm.
There's a guy named Turk. I want to know who he is.
You're late for that.
Who is he?
Go ahead, tear it off, and you'll die ignorant.
Yeah.
You sound blue, Novak.
Oh, what do you want, Hellman?
I want to give you a reason. We got the coroner's report on George Leggett.
Yeah?
He died in your apartment. The blood off your carpet looks good on these slides.
All right, so the murderer sold me the rug. So what, Hellman?
So we ran down George Leggett's record. A Detroit gunman who got out here 6 weeks ago.
Yeah?
He traveled for years with a guy named Turk Spaniel.
Now, that's your boy. You better find him.
We already have.
Don't tell me he's up on the couch.
He was born too soon for you. We checked with the Detroit police.
What'd they say?
They know all about Turk Spaniel. He was killed 9 years ago in West Detroit. But they found the guy that did it and sent him up to Lansing for life.
Yeah?
Yeah. He was a guy named Joe Biggs. Say hello to your girlfriend.
Well, I didn't talk to the girl because I knew she'd close up faster than a Dublin meat market on Friday. I left her and went down to the Chronicle morgue to find out what I could about Turk Spaniel. Hellman had covered it. Spaniel talked too much, and Joe Biggs killed him and left him growing out of a ditch like an old weed. I didn't know where to turn now. With Turk gone, who was after those pictures besides Alma Biggs, and what did they prove? I knew the answer was there, probably in plain sight like a blimp on a football field, but I couldn't get near it. It was past 2 when I got back to my apartment, and the phone was screaming for help. Yeah.
Hello, Patsy. This is Jocko.
What'd you find out?
That Calloway was quite a photographer.
Yeah?
You should see some of the pictures. Ooh, I'm in love with you.
All right, Jocko. Did you find anything?
There's a check for $1,000 from Alma Biggs.
Yeah, what else?
Some more pictures of the Oakland fire. One of them looks good.
Yeah?
It's just like the rest, except in the background something is circled with a red pencil.
That'll do it, Jocko.
And there's a clipping here with another picture. I can't tell, but I think they match.
What's it say?
Well, it's all about...
Jocko, what's the matter? Are you all right, Jocko? Jocko, you all right?
He says to tell you no.
After Jocko's call, I grabbed a cab and rode up to Calloway's apartment. When I got there, Jocko was sitting in the middle of the floor as sad as a steer on a sheep ranch. He hadn't seen who hit him, and the picture was gone, and so was the clipping. I asked him if there were any negatives around. He said no. That meant that somebody was still on the prowl for those negatives. So I called Hellman and briefed him. He said he'd meet us at Reuben Calloway's studio in 10 minutes. When we got there, it was dark, but I sensed Hellman in the back room. Turned out to be a couple of pans of acid, but Hellman was there going over the negatives.
All this guy did was take pictures.
Let me take a look, will you, Hellman? Can you spot the right one here, Jocko?
Hold them up to the light.
All right. Here are the fire pictures.
How about this one?
No, I had that one.
Yeah, that's it. And this fellow back here is the one that was circled.
Hold it up so I can see.
Hello, Turk. You waited too long.
Give me the picture, mister.
All that gun will do is make noise, Spaniel. It won't make enough to keep a secret.
Just hand me the picture.
Somebody knows you're alive now. The picture's for laughs.
It's your word against mine, and I'll be so far away I can't hear the argument. Let's have it.
Don't give it to him, Novak.
Yeah, I'll give it to him. You take it away, Hellman.
Thanks, Novak. That alley taught you manners. Just stand over there. I want to remember the way you looked.
Don't worry. I'll tell you about them, Turk.
Huh?
If you keep backing into this gun, it's going to show around your breastbone.
Guns are getting cheap. You better drop yours, Spaniel.
Over there. You look the same, Turk, or almost the same.
You got this all wrong, Alma.
Joe doesn't look the same. 9 years in the cooler and you lose your personality.
Please, Alma, don't do anything crazy.
After 9 years, you lose almost everything. Joe's lost everything but me. Down on the floor, Spaniel. I want you on your knees.
Please. Alma, you got it wrong.
I got it all right, Turk, because Joe wouldn't lie to me. When he said he didn't kill you, I knew you were alive.
Please, Alma.
Down on the floor beside the table.
Go easy, baby. You got a copper here.
I can't hurt him, Novak. Turk Spaniel's legally dead. All you can do to a dead man is kick up the dust.
Please, Alma, you're not seeing this right.
I'm going to have a better chance than you. You couldn't see, Spaniel. You couldn't see your way back to help Joe out. You look good on your knees. Over by the table.
Leave that acid alone, sweetheart.
I'm going to help him see. With a whole panful of it. I'm going to help you see, Spaniel.
Please. Please, Alma, you wouldn't do that?
You got the short end of the bet.
You better look at him, Jocko.
Don't bother, unless you're a baby doctor.
We may need you, lady.
Not for this copper. Remember, Turk Spaniel's dead. Detroit says so.
He looks live now.
He can't be dead there and live here. I like your climate, but it's not that good. You can't see me, Turk. So I'll bet you can hear me walk out of here. Goodbye, Turk. I'll send you a cane.
Well, Hellman managed to get most of the story out of Turk Spaniel. Reuben Calloway stumbled into the whole thing, and he didn't know what hit him. He went over to Oakland to take some pictures of the fire, and he got a picture of Spaniel in the crowd. Spaniel saw him and trailed him over to this side. He had to get the pictures because back in Detroit, he'd framed Joe Biggs with a riddled-up body and skipped out of the country. He'd been away until a few weeks ago, and now he was waiting for a boat out of San Francisco, so he had to stay dead. He sent George Leggett after the pictures, but Leggett figured it was a good way to double-cross him and stay in the clear, so he tipped off Alma Biggs, who'd come out here on a lead a few weeks before. Turk finally tumbled. With a local gunsel, he killed Calloway and left Leggett in my apartment where he trailed him. It almost worked out. But he didn't get to that shop in time. Well, Hellman asked only one question. When I first met her, did I know that Alma Biggs was that hard? No. In that satin evening gown, I didn't think so.
The American Broadcasting Company has just brought you the fifth of a new series, Pat Novak for Hire, starring Jack Webb. Pat Novak is produced and directed by William P. Rousseau. Jack O'Madigan is played by Tudor Owen. Inspector Hellman is played by Raymond Burr. Music was composed and conducted by Basil Edlund. In our cast were Yvonne Fady, Charles McGraw, Herb Butterfield, and Herb Ellis. This program is being released to our servicemen and women overseas through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Be with us again next week when over most of these same ABC stations we will bring you Pat Novak for Hire. This program came to you from Hollywood. Now, a brief reminder. There is no mystery to this statement. Wherever they serve, at home or abroad, the men who wear the uniform of the United States are men of whom we can be proud. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. All of them serve our country and us with pride and honor. It's ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Dragnet is brought to you by Chesterfield, made by Liggett & Myers, first major tobacco company to bring you a complete line of quality cigarettes.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. The body of an attractive woman has been found in the downtown office building, beaten to death with a piece of lead pipe. The killer has escaped into the city. Your job, find him. Today, friends, you hear these three words everywhere. Chesterfield's for me. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. Best for you, because Chesterfield gives you proof of highest quality, low nicotine. The taste you want, the mildness you want. Chesterfield is best for you because it is tested and approved by 30 years of scientific tobacco research. Chesterfield is best for you because it has an established good record with smokers, proven by test after test. Yes, friends, the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. For the taste you want, the mildness you want, join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Thursday, April 15th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Lorman. My name's Friday. We just left the murder room, and it was 7:40 a.m. when we got to suite 718, the building manager's office. Miss Joyce?
Yes. You men cops?
Yes, ma'am. We understand you're the one who found the body, is that right?
Oh, that's right. I found her. Oh, it was an awful thing.
This is my partner, Frank Smith. My name's Friday. Wonder if you feel up to telling us exactly what happened.
Oh, sure. It's just about the most terrible thing ever happened to me.
Something we can get you, ma'am?
Oh, no, thanks. Janie brought me some hot coffee.
Who's Janie?
Janie Alquist. She works the first 3 floors. She brought me some hot coffee.
I see.
She was up here and they let her bring it.
All right, Miss Joyce. Could you just tell us about it, please?
Right from the beginning. You want to hear all about the whole thing?
If you would, please.
Well, I came on at 4, just like always. I punched in and came up to the 10th floor and started in. Got the things out of the closet on the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I start on the 7th. But now and then I like to do it a little different, and I start on 10 and work down.
Yes, ma'am. What time was it when you found the body?
Oh, just a few minutes ago. I guess about 7, right around in there. I only had 2 more offices to do, and I'd be finished. I just had 2 more when I got there.
Yes, ma'am. You'd go ahead and tell us about finding the body?
Oh, well, I unlocked the door, and I saw the light inside. I thought it was kind of funny, because usually it's dark.
You mean in the office?
Yes, and where Mrs. Fitzgerald's desk is, it's usually dark.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought it was kind of funny, like I said. But then I thought that maybe she was working. Mm-hmm. She does accounting, you know, woman accountant, and I thought she was working. Mm-hmm. So I knocked. I didn't just want to go right in if she was working, you know, disturb her. So I knocked. Mm-hmm. But she didn't answer.
Right, go ahead, please.
Well, I opened the door and went in. Right off, I was kind of sore about it. No excuse for a thing like that. No excuse at all.
What do you mean?
Well, didn't you see the place? Didn't you look?
Yeah.
Well, then you know what a mess it was. Papers all over the floor, and ashtrays spilled, all that mess, and I'm supposed to be through at 7:30. Well, I'd never have made it. Never got through on time. And that's when I saw her behind the desk. Oh, it was an awful thing. There she was on the floor, dead.
Yes, ma'am. There was no one else in the office?
No. Just Mrs. Fitzgerald. She was on the floor behind the desk.
What'd you do then?
Oh, I screamed. Loud as I could. I wanted somebody to come up there right away. And that was the first time I ever saw anybody dead. Then I ran out of the office and went downstairs to get somebody to help. Just an awful thing. Oh, poor Mrs. Fitzgerald. Oh, she was so nice. All the time saying hello when she'd come in early and I'd still be working. Oh, I think about it and I just can't believe that it's true. I just can't hardly believe it.
Did you see anyone on the floor while you were working?
Just Mrs. Fitzgerald.
No, ma'am. I mean, was there anybody in the halls of the building?
Oh, no. No, not that I saw. There wasn't anybody. I'd have seen them if they was there, but they weren't.
All right, Miss Joyce. We'll contact you tomorrow about a statement. Meantime, we'll leave you one of our cards here. If you think of anything we should know, we'd appreciate it if you give us a call.
Oh, I sure will. Anything at all I think of, I'll call you.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go now?
Yes, ma'am.
I've got to go home and take a hot bath and calm my nerves.
Surely.
Oh, sure, it's going to be a shock to her husband. Of course, not that he'll mind too much.
I beg your pardon?
Her husband, you know, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes, ma'am. What about him?
Well, just that it isn't going to bother that one too much.
Why do you say that?
Oh, I shouldn't have said anything. Not a word. I shouldn't have told you. I'd get fired, sure.
Well, if it's got anything to do with Miss Fitzgerald's death, maybe you better tell us, don't you think?
Well, if you'll promise not to tell the supervisor.
All right, go ahead.
It gets dull just being in a big building by yourself, all alone at night when there isn't anybody around. It's pretty dull.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while, not real often, but just once in a while, I kind of read some of the letters that people throw away, you know, in the wastebasket.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want them anymore, so when it gets real dull, I read them. And I've read some in Mrs. Fitzgerald's office from her husband, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Seems like they've been having some kind of a big fight, going to court and all. I don't know what it's all about, but they've been fighting. And in the letters, he tells how she ought to leave him alone. I guess she's asking for a lot of alimony or something. That's what it sounded like to me. Some of the letters, the way he wrote to her, mean, used to threaten her all the time.
You saw these letters where he threatened her, did you?
Yes. One, I guess it was about a week ago. He said in that if she tried to railroad the thing through, now that's what he said, railroad the thing through, he'd come up here and...
Yes, go ahead.
Well, that's all there is. I couldn't find the other piece of the letter where he said what he was going to do. See, she tore up the letters after she read them.
Mm-hmm. All right, Miss Joyce, thank you very much.
No, I hope I helped.
Yes, ma'am, I certainly have.
I sure wish I could have found that other piece of the letter. No way of knowing what it said.
Yes, ma'am.
You suppose he really meant it?
I don't know. We'll ask him. By the time Frank and I had arrived at the scene, the crew from the crime lab was there. Photographs of the entire room were taken, and fingerprints were lifted from the edges of the desk, from the top of a lamp, and from the molding around the door. The murder weapon, a 15-inch section of heavy lead pipe, was booked for evidence. There was nothing we could tell from the pipe itself other than the fact that it was the murder instrument. It was a plain piece of 3/4-inch pipe. One end was wrapped in a heavy brown paper. The other was blood-stained. Because of the appearance of the office, it looked as if robbery was the motive for the crime. However, on examination of the victim's personal effects, we found that 2 large diamond rings were still in her fingers. In her purse, we found cash in the amount of $226. On the desk itself, we found a woman's wristwatch set with 12 diamonds. The fact that none of this had been removed apparently ruled out robbery as the motive. The other employees of the building were questioned, but they were unable to shed any light on a possible suspect. None of them had seen any unauthorized persons in the place after closing hours. People on the street in the immediate vicinity were questioned. The only lead we were able to come up with was that at approximately 7:02 a.m., a newsboy had seen a short, stocky man walk from the office building entrance. Other than the brief description of the man's build, the witness was unable to tell us anything. An immediate broadcast was gotten out on what information we had. From a telephone book in the victim's desk, we got an address for her husband, Oscar Fitzgerald. It was a men's club located in downtown Los Angeles. Frank and I drove over to talk to him.
Come in.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Sit down. I'll call for some coffee. You fellas want some?
No, thanks.
No, sir.
You don't mind if I have some?
No, you go right ahead.
Room service, please. Kind of early for the cops to come calling, isn't it?
Yes, sir, I guess it is.
This is Mr. Fitzgerald, room 417. Would you please send up a pot of coffee? That's right. Oh, and send a large glass of orange juice, too, huh? Yeah, make sure it's cold. 417. Right. One thing I can't go is warm orange juice. Like a cigarette?
Yeah, thank you.
Now, what's this all about? What do you want to see me for?
Well, when's the last time you saw your wife?
Ada?
Thank you.
I guess a couple of weeks ago. Why?
Well, can you narrow that down to a day?
Why? Any special reason for me to?
Well, we'd like to hear it.
Well, let's see. I guess it was around March 30th. I can check it if it's important.
Where'd you see her?
With my lawyers. We had a conference to try and work out the divorce and settlement.
What line of work are you in, Fitzgerald?
I think you'd better tell me what this is all about before I answer any more questions. If this is some sort of trick Ada's trying, you tell her it won't work and she can get off my back.
No, it's no trick. I think it might be better if you'd cooperate with us and answer the question.
All right, but I'm going to tell you going in that if you try to pull a fast one, I'm going to deny everything I tell you now.
If you tell us the truth, you won't have any trouble. Now, where do you work?
Right now, I'm between.
What's that mean exactly?
Well, I'm an actor. Right now, I haven't got an assignment.
Where'd you work last?
Picture studio. Look, until you tell me what this is for, I'm not going to give you any names.
Can you give us your movements for the past few days?
Starting when?
Well, let's try the day before yesterday.
Okay, I got up and went out to see my agent. Of course, that was a waste of time. Hung around the office for a couple hours and then had lunch on the strip. After that, I came downtown, saw a movie. I came home, took a shower, and then kept the dinner engagement.
You prove that?
If I have to, yeah. But you're getting no names until I know what's going on.
All right, how about yesterday? What'd you do then?
I got up and went out to my agent's. He told me he had a part on the fire. We went out on an interview. I was at the studio until about 4:30, and then we went back to my agent's office and had a couple of drinks. After that, I came back here. Didn't feel too good, and I went to bed.
Well, the man at the desk would be able to verify all that, would he?
Yeah, just ask him.
Fitzgerald, how'd you get along with your wife?
Well, it's not any of your business, but I'll tell you. It isn't any secret. I hated everything about it.
You ever have any fights with her?
Not more than 5 a week for the past 4 years.
You ever hit her?
You know, people win money for answering questions on quiz shows. What happens if I answer the big one?
Well, that depends on how you're going to answer it. We understand you wrote your wife some threatening letters now, is that right?
I guess you could call them that, yeah. I told her to get off my back and leave me alone. Told her if she didn't, she was building more trouble than she could handle.
You ever threaten her life?
No. I'm not going to try to tell you that there weren't times when I could have killed Ada. There were a lot of them, but it wasn't worth it, not for her.
What'd you argue about mostly?
The divorce. I've been trying to get one for the last 4 years. Ada wouldn't see it. Finally, when I did talk her into it, the settlement she wanted was way out of line. I wouldn't go for it and told her so. What's all this about the fights and the threatening, anyway? Something happened to Ada, is that it?
Yes, sir.
She been hurt?
I'm afraid it's more serious than that.
She dead?
Yes, sir.
You think I did?
Now we're checking everybody that knew her.
Okay, I told her there were times when I could have, when I maybe wanted to. But I wouldn't go to jail for her. Not ever. You got to find another boy, and when you do, I'll go his lawyer's fee.
Yeah.
How'd they do it?
Piece of lead pipe.
Bad?
Yeah.
Rough way to go.
Is there an easy way? We made a preliminary search of the room, but we found nothing that would tie in the victim's husband, Oscar Fitzgerald, with the crime. We talked to the desk clerk, and he verified the man's story that he'd been in his apartment the evening of the killing. Fitzgerald made arrangements with us to attend the coroner's inquest, and Frank and I went back to the city hall. We checked with the crime lab on their investigation. Lieutenant Lee Jones told us that they'd been able to lift several partial fingerprints from the murder weapon, but that they were impossible to classify. He went on to say that the other prints that had been found at the scene were unusable as evidence, since it would be difficult to get enough points for identification. The other physical evidence taken from the office was of little use. A check had been made of the piece of pipe, but it was found to be of a common type and impossible to trace. Microphotographs had been made of the serrated edges, and these had been booked as evidence. We asked the stats office to make a run on the M.O. of the crime, and they told us that they would start through their files immediately. For the next 2 days, Frank and I talked to all of the friends and relatives of the victim, attempting to find a motive for the crime. From what we had to work on, the only plausible reason for the killing was either revenge or jealousy. None of Mrs. Fitzgerald's friends or business acquaintances were able to point out anyone with a strong enough reason to kill the woman. Monday, April 19th, Frank and I got back to the office after interviewing one of the victim's business competitors.
Well, that's another one that didn't go anyplace.
It seems like that's all we've been drawing on this one, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'll check the book.
All right. Anything come in from the stats office yet?
No. Said they'd have the rest of the run for us this afternoon.
First punch didn't turn anything. I got it. Homicide, Friday. Yeah, Jack. Anything on him? Sure. We're no place now. Well, no, anything's got to be. You want to give me that address? All right. All right, we'll check it. Good. All right, Jack. Thanks again. Bye. Jack McCready says he talked to one of his informants this morning. Guy came up with a couple of good things, maybe.
Yeah?
One of them's about a guy in the Olympia bar at 4th and Kohler. Fellow's pretty drunk. Been doing a lot of talking down there.
Something for us?
Maybe. He's bragging about beating a woman to death with a piece of pipe. 4:40 p.m. We left the office and drove over to the corner of 4th and Kohler, the Olympia bar. When we walked in, there were only a few customers in the place. At the far end of the bar, a short, stocky man was sitting alone. In front of him was an empty shot glass and a bottle of beer. He appeared to be pretty drunk, and as we entered, he was talking to the other people seated at the bar.
Any of you guys that don't believe it, you just come outside with me, I'll show you. Show you all, every one of you. Bartender, I got an empty glass. Now, let's do something about it, huh? I need a drink.
I think you had about enough of that, don't you?
What?
I said you had enough to drink.
Who are you to tell me that, huh? Who are you to come in here and tell me what to do? What's the matter? You think you're cops or something, huh? Is that what you think?
You called it. Come on, we want to talk to you.
You mean you are cops?
That's right.
Well, listen, you better get out of here and do it fast if you know what's good for you. You just better.
Frank, yeah.
Take your hands off me. You guys don't hear good, do you?
Stand still.
You come messing around with me, you're going to find out. You'll find out good. I'll give you the same thing I gave her, the same thing.
Hold it, Frank. All right, come on, mister. Who are you talking about?
I'll tell you who. I'll tell you good. And you'll know, leave me alone if you know what's good for you. I'm talking about that Ada Fitzgerald, that's who. Ada. You go messing with me and you'll get what she got. I'm a pretty rough fella, you know. Pretty rough.
That's right.
You betcha. You're not dealing with a kid, you know.
Well, that makes it even then, doesn't it?
Huh?
You're not dealing with a woman. We took the suspect down to the homicide squad room. He identified himself as Carl Neely. He was handcuffed to a chair, and we ran his name through the record bureau. He had a long string of arrests for various charges, including attempted robbery, assault, and assault with intent to do great bodily harm. He'd never been convicted on a felony, but his record showed that he'd served 2 terms in the county jail for drunk charges and creating a public nuisance. While we were checking his record, the suspect passed out in an alcoholic stupor in the squad room. We contacted Sergeant Jack McCready and Officer Danny Galindo and asked them to make a search of the suspect's residence. In going over the place, they'd found a blood-stained shirt and a coat. The garments were packed in a cardboard box that had been hidden under the kitchen sink. They were brought downtown to us along with an empty envelope found in the apartment. It had been sent to the suspect, Neely, and the return address on the back indicated that the letter had been sent by the victim's husband, Oscar Fitzgerald. We waited for the suspect to come to enough for us to question him. Frank went out and brought back some hot coffee. We tried to get Neely to drink some of it. 8:40 p.m.
That's got hot.
All right, come on, try some more.
You're cops, huh?
You've been the route before.
Yeah. What am I here for?
I want to talk to you about the Fitzgerald woman.
Ada? Spouting off again.
You said you killed her.
Figures. Every time I get tanked up, I always kill somebody. Never fails.
All right, tell us about the Fitzgerald woman.
Nothing to tell. I read about it in the papers. This morning I started drinking. It always happens when I've been belting the booze. I right away tell people I killed somebody.
These clothes here belong to you?
Let me see. I don't know. Where'd you get them?
Are they yours?
I don't know.
You got that many clothes? I know all the clothes I got. No trouble at all.
You don't dress as good as me.
All right, come off it, Neely. You're in trouble. Big trouble here. You sat in the bar this morning, told everybody about how you'd beaten a woman to death. We find these clothes in your apartment, bloodstains all over them. Here's another thing, this envelope. Where'd you get this?
Through the mail, like it says. You see the stamp?
You know Oscar Fitzgerald?
I don't get mail from strangers. Sure I know him. Is it a crime to get a letter now?
What was in that envelope?
I don't think that's none of your business.
Well, we do. What kind of dealings have you got with Oscar Fitzgerald?
You used to work for him?
Doing what?
I took care of the place when him and Ada were married, sort of a general handyman.
When'd you see him last?
I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, around there, 3 months.
And what did he find so important that he wrote you about it?
Look, he loaned me some money. He sent me a check.
It was a loan, huh?
Yeah.
Sign any sort of note for the money?
Well, I endorsed the check. It said on it I was a loan. What are you guys trying to prove, anyway? You trying to tie me in with Ada's killing?
You look good for it.
You're off your rocker. I had nothing to do with it. Sure, you got me for drunk, but that's all.
Your record makes you look good for it.
Clothes we found in your apartment don't help you.
You sure Oscar Fitzgerald didn't pay you to kill his wife?
It'd be a lot better if you told us the truth here, Neely.
I'm telling you the truth. It's right in front of you. All you got to do is open your eyes. It's there.
Where'd the bloodstains come from?
They're mine.
Well, tell us about it.
Well, I got in a fight with another fella.
Where?
A bar down on 7th.
When?
Wednesday.
Last week?
Yeah, last Wednesday.
What time did you have this fight?
Closing time?
That'd make it about 2 o'clock, huh?
That's when the bar's closed.
Where'd you go after you had the fight?
Went up to a friend's house and had a couple more drinks.
Who's a friend?
You don't know him. He's got no record.
What's his name?
I don't want him dragged into anything.
What's his name?
Jackie Meadows.
Let me see your hands, Neely.
Sure.
Well, you got some pretty bad bruises there. You must have hit something pretty hard.
Fight I told you about. That's where those came from.
Tell us what you did after you left the bar.
I told you I went up to Jackie's. I had a couple of drinks.
What time did you get there?
Around 3, maybe 3:10.
What time did you leave?
About 5.
Where'd you go?
I don't remember too good. I was pretty boozed up.
Where do you think you went?
Well, Jackie was worried about me being cut up from the fight. He wanted me to see a doctor.
Yeah?
He drove me down to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital.
Yeah.
I was there until 9:30 Thursday morning.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
World altitude records. World speed records. All part of Bill Bridgman's job as a supersonic test pilot for Douglas Aircraft. You read about Bill in Time magazine. Now let's meet one of the world's fastest humans, and Jacqueline Hazard, who is collaborating with Bill on his new book, Test Pilot. They smoke America's most popular two-way cigarette, Chesterfield.
I smoke the king size. After hearing what the Chesterfield people have been saying about them, I thought I should try them. I'm convinced they're best for me.
It's Chesterfields for me, too, but I like the regular size. Either way, they're everything Bill says, and they're really mild.
You try Chesterfields. I think you'll find they're best for you.
Yes, for the taste you want, the mildness you want. Join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield.
A call was put through to Dr. Hall at Georgia Street Receiving Hospital, asking if a patient was given emergency treatment on the morning of Thursday, April 15th. A search of the hospital records verified the story told to us by the suspect, Carl Neely. We checked through our crime reports, and we found that a miscellaneous injury report had been made. From the coroner's report, we knew that the victim had been murdered between the hours of 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. on that morning. We got in touch with Neely's friend, Jackie Meadows, and he also verified the suspect's story. He was booked in at the main jail on a charge of being drunk in a public place, and Frank and I started checking out the remainder of the list that the stats office had given us. Originally, there had been 12 names on the list. We talked to 10 of them. The 11th, a Norman Sitkin, had a record of burglary, attempted robbery, and assault with a deadly weapon. He'd been arrested and brought to trial on a charge of murder 3 years previously, but he'd been acquitted. The circumstances surrounding his arrest were the same as those in the Fitzgerald case. The main reason he'd been released a free man was the testimony of his mother, who had sworn that Sitkin had been home with her on the night of the killing. When we went out to his home, we found that he wasn't there. We talked to his mother, and she told us that he'd been in San Diego for the past 3 days. Under interrogation, we established the fact that on the night of the Fitzgerald killing, Sitkin hadn't been at home, but that he had been in Los Angeles. We put in a call to the San Diego authorities and talked to Lieutenant Mort Gear in the homicide detail. We contacted the hotel where he was staying in Los Angeles, and a 24-hour stakeout was placed on the location. Wednesday, April 21st. Frank and I got back from lunch.
Better put in a call to Mort, huh? See if we got anything on Sitkin?
Yeah. You want to do it?
Right.
Okay.
Hi, this is Frank Smith, robbery. Yeah, I'd like to put in the call to San Diego PD Homicide Bureau. Lieutenant Mort Gear. No, it's a homicide. Yeah, DR 132549. Yeah, that's the one. Mm-hmm. That's 3268? Huh? Oh, 58. Right. Okay, Sam, thanks. I'm on this one, Joe.
Oh, sorry. Homicide Friday. Yes, sir? No, that's right. When was that? Yes, sir. Right away. Cancel that call, Frank.
What do you got?
Sitkin just walked into his hotel. Frank and I left the office immediately and drove out to Sitkin's hotel. We talked to the officers on stakeout, and they told us that the suspect had just returned. They went on to explain that they'd given Sitkin no reason to suspect that anything was wrong and that he'd gone directly to his room. Frank and I got in the elevator, and we went up to the 4th floor.
Yeah? All right, just a minute.
Yeah? What do you want? You Norman Sitkin?
Yeah, what do you want?
Police officer.
Come on. You got no right to do this. Let me see your warrant.
Get your coat, Sitkin. We want to talk to you.
What for? What do you got to talk to me about? I got nothing to say.
Get your coat.
Why? What's the charge? What are you taking me in for?
Suspicion of murder?
You're kidding.
Well, you just keep thinking that.
You mean this is for real?
Come on, let's go.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I want to know what this is all about.
Is that so?
Well, sure. Figure I had something to do with that woman who was beaten to death downtown. Fitzgerald, I think that's the name, huh? Isn't that what you think?
Well, you seem to know all about it.
Well, you're way off on this one. I got an alibi that you can't break. I can see you guys figuring because I stood this kind of beef once before, you can make it stick this time. Well, it won't work, cop. None of it fits together. I can prove where I was that night every minute.
All right.
That's right, every minute. You check in my house. Happens I was with my mother, just like the other time. All night I was home.
You going to stand on that?
Well, there isn't any other way.
Well, it's going to make it a lot easier then.
Well, what's that supposed to mean?
We talked to your mother. She says you weren't home that night.
Well, she's wrong. You let me talk to her. She'll tell you. You just let me talk to her.
She's sure you weren't there. She's willing to testify to that.
Get out of my way!
All right, come on. Let me get the cuffs.
Yeah. Hold still. Funny, isn't it?
What's that?
Well, looks like he might have been good on that first killing, the one he was acquitted on. His mother might have lied on the stand.
That's not going to make a lot of difference, is it?
Huh?
He's going to make up for it on this one.
The story you have just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On August 17th, trial was held in Department 97, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Earlier, George Fenneman told you exactly why the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. And best for you. Now, the rest is up to you. Get a carton or two for yourself. Smoke them and you'll say, as we do, it's Chesterfields for me.
Norman Edward Sitkin was tried and convicted for murder in the first degree. On recommendation of the jury, he received the maximum penalty, and on July 19th, he was executed in the lethal gas chamber at the State Penitentiary, San Quentin, California. have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Virginia Gregg, Herb Ellis. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Watch an entirely different Dragnet case history each week on your local NBC television station. Please check your newspapers for the day and time. Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Filter tip smokers, this is it. L&M Filters, the one filter tip cigarette with plenty of good taste, much more flavor, much less nicotine, and effective filtration. Only the L&M filter contains the miracle product alpha cellulose, absolutely pure, non-mineral, harmless to health. Yes, this is it. As Helen Hayes puts it, L&M filters are just what the doctor ordered. Buy L&M filters, the light and mild smoke.
Hear Rocky Fortune following John Cameron Swayze and the news on the NBC Radio Network.
This is the Jack Webb Show. Oh, yes. Time. 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 Oh, my darling. Have you ever stopped to think what Wednesday night at 9:30 means? Oh, my darling. Wednesday night at 9:30 means Wednesday night at 9:30. Ah, my darling, if we were on a windswept hill, if we could but go there, if we could but be there, alone, just you and I and that windswept hill. Just the three of us. Just you. Just I. Just that windswept hill. The three of us, that is. I could but whisper but these three immortal words in your ear, words as old as time. 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 These three words would I but whisper. The Jack Webb Show.
There's too darn many strings on this thing.
This week, Mayor Lapham announced that the fight was still on to raise streetcar fares, but the Jack Webb Show sinks lower and lower. Yes, the Jack Webb Show, or Lost Wednesday. That means Phil Bavero and those 8 retards known as the Ragged Airs, Clancy Hayes, who brought music to the marina, will sing the words whether they match the music or not. Tiny Nora McNamara, pretty as a picture, will be framed by the orchestra again this week. John Galbraith, a rare Oakland importation, will prove that anyone can be a radio actor. Due to an increase in our program budget, the above people and things will be assisted in tonight's production by an all-star cast of thousands. And if you hurry, you have just time to catch the second show at your neighborhood movie.
You're tuned to Facts on Parade.
Yes, here's the program all Africa has been raving about. It's Facts on Parade. The only program devoting its entire time to bringing you the unusual, the bizarre, the little known, and that's a fact. This is the program that has everyone saying,
Why, I knew that all the time.
yes, many college students have used this program instead of their books to graduate, and that's a fact. And now here's the man who says that's a fact. For fact-loving people everywhere, Fred Fact.
Thank you, Fred Flooper, and good evening. And that's a fact. Here's a curious item that comes to us from Fredville, Florida, sent in by Fred Fudge. And that's a fact. Fred Fudge offers this observation. If the uniforms of all the privates in the Army were laid end to end, they would most certainly reach. That's a fact.
Our next item comes from Fredtown, Scotland, submitted by Mrs. Fred Fink.
This one is very strange. She says, and I'm not quite sure this is even a fact, robbing Peter to pay Paul is not much better than robbing Paul to pay Peter. And that's a fact.
And this one wins the Fred Fact Fine Finders of Fact Award. It is submitted by Fred Fang, who lives in Fred Valley, Minnesota.
Fred Fang makes this quaint observation. He says that on this program, we seem to show partiality to the name Fred. And that's a Fred. I mean a fact.
Ladies and gentlemen, this material has been approved by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We wish to thank the Federal Bureau of Investigation for this material, which they assure us is material.
Is it Dick Tracy?
No.
Is it Sherlock Holmes?
No.
Is it Mr. North?
No.
Is it Mrs. North?
No.
Is it the Thin Man?
No.
The Fat Man?
No.
The Saint?
No.
The Whistler?
No.
The Frog? The Bat? The Green Hornet? The Spider? The Dog? The Cat? The Mouse?
No.
It's the Razor.
He's sharp.
Another conspicuous first for radio. The True Adventures of the Razor. Tonight's story, another close shave for the Razor. Entitled The Case of the Confused Keyhole. The Razor is brought to you each week at this time by, well, the Razor is no cheap commercial detective. He's sustaining. Leave us look in on the Razor, sitting in his study, thinking.
3 hours and I haven't had a case. This inactivity is maddening. I'm in a rut. I might as well admit it. As a last resort, I may telephone my sweetheart, Peaches Latoul. Too late now. I have a murder on my hands. Hello, this is the Razor. Who's been murdered? No murder? Oh, you have the wrong number. What? Who? Bufano? Benny Bufano? The Press Club's hat has been stolen? What? What? No, don't touch a thing. This looks serious. You know, Bufano, I suspect the arch enemy of the Razor, Stan Strop. I'll go to work on him right away. The press club cat's stolen. Being held for ransom. I wonder why. Those poor reporters haven't any money. I'll bet there's a half dozen murders before I get to the bottom of this. I'm off for the press club. Peaches Latoul. What are you doing at the press club? This is gang dinner night.
What do you mean, press club? You're on the opposite side of town. You're at my house.
You sure?
Yeah. You've driven all the way across town backwards.
Must have been that Saratan I put in the gas tank. Well, I'm off for the press club.
Razor, darling, you seem to be in a lather.
Well, I am. This case has got me stumped. Who stole that cat and why?
I don't know.
Neither do I.
Oh.
Wait.
Yes?
I think I hear a murder out in the hall.
Oh, Razor, you're on edge.
Yes, perhaps I am. There, did you hear the shot?
That was the phone bell.
Oh. This is the Razor. Who? Dick Powell? Oh. Well, just fine, thank you. And you? That's fine. Well, I can't be three places at once. How should I know who sapped you? Peaches, I have a plan.
You have?
Yes.
Oh, that's fine.
Yes, isn't it? Peaches? What'd you say?
Nothing. That was the phone bell.
Oh. This is the Razor. What? Who? Humane Society. Every one, you say? What? No, don't touch a thing. This looks serious. You know, Humane Society, I suspect the archenemy of the Razor, Stan Strop. I'll go to work on him right away. Peaches, you're not going to believe this. That press club cat was only the beginning. Every cat in town has been stolen. Peaches, I've made a list of all the suspects. Round them up and take them down to the San Francisco Opera House. That should hold them all. I'll meet you there in 1 hour, if I don't run into a murder.
They're all here, Razor. 4,000 suspects.
This ought to be easy. Somebody will betray himself with a guilty expression.
We've been here 4 days now.
Yeah. The suspects have thinned out to a mere 3,000. Peaches, I'm on the verge of cracking this case.
We've been here 3 weeks now.
Yes, and I've thinned the suspects down to a scant 1,000. Peaches, this fellow's playing hard to get.
There he goes, Razor, the last suspect.
Yes, and not one of them had a guilty expression. Peaches, this whole thing has been a dismal failure. We're on the wrong track. The Razor admits. He's failed.
Oh, let's go home.
Right. Look out, Peaches! Did they slice you, Peaches?
No, I'm all right.
You know, Peaches, I'm not sure, but I think the men in that car were trying to kill me. I suspect the archenemy of the Razor, Stan Strop. I'll go to work on him right away.
Scrape the sky, Razor. I've got you covered.
Egad! Trapped by the notorious Phil Furs.
We interrupt the adventures of the Razor to bring you a brief message. The Razor is no cheap commercial detective. No one can sponsor the Razor. And now, back to the Razor.
I've got you covered now, Phil Furs.
That happened awfully fast.
Yes, didn't it?
Razor, look. That dog is growling at Phil Furs.
Yes, Peaches. Phil Furs, I arrest you for the theft of the Press Club cat and every other cat in town.
Razor, are you sure?
But of course, I should have known it all along. That dog was growling not at Phil Furs, but at the sweater he's wearing.
The sweater Phil Furs is wearing.
You're too late, Razor.
Egad, think of it, Peaches. Phil Furs has skinned every cat in town.
But why did he steal the Press Club cat?
Simple, Peaches. That was done to confuse me. How silly. Yes, Phil Furs. I arrest you for engaging in the illegal practice of the manufacture and the sale of cat smear sweaters.
Back home again in Indiana. It just seems that I can see that same old candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. And that new mown hay sends out its fragrance through the fields I used to roam. And when I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, how I'm longing for my Indiana home. Back home again in Indiana. It just seems that I can see that same old candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. And that new mown hay sends out its fragrance through the fields I used to roam. And when I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, how I'm longing for my Indiana home.
It's contest time on the Jack Webb Show.
Yes, this is that attractive gift offer you've been all waiting for.
Say, Webb, we'd better pitch it straight.
Okay, John, I guess we have. Tell them what we'd like, will you?
Okay, gang, we got a ginger peach prize just waiting for the person who writes the best letter or postcard on the subject, how to get the Jack Webb Show off the air. Executives of the American Broadcasting Company are not eligible to enter this contest.
That's right. Folks, John's not fooling. We really would like to get your letters and cards. And the subject once more, John boy?
All right, but most of them probably have their letter written already. The subject is how to get the Jack Webb Show off the air. All letters must be postmarked not later than Sunday midnight, April 14th.
Just address your letters and cards to the Jack Webb Show, American Broadcasting Company, San Francisco, Zone C.
Honest, you'll like the prize. We can barely afford to give it away.
Sad people everywhere, this is your program.
Yes, sad ones. This is the Misery Hour.
Presented each week at this same sad time by the makers of Phil DeMille's pills. Is your head splitting with NIAP? Oh, that miserable NIAP feeling. Each of us has it at one time or another. No use trying to fight NIAP, for NIAP fights back. The only way to rid yourself of NIAP is to have your head removed, which is, of course, unless you have plenty of money, is not practical these days. Fight NIAP with Phil DeMille's pills, a harmless little stimulant that contains small amounts of opium, heroin, marijuana, and cyanide. Before the various stages of NIAP set in, head NIAP, back NIAP, foot NIAP, and ear NIAP, fight NIAP effectively with Phil DeMille's pills. NIAP spelled backward is pain. And now your host for the evening and conductor of the Misery Hour, Bill Ball.
Thank you, Terry Tier. Well, friends, before tonight's interviews begin, I am happy to report that Gladys Glue, you remember Gladys? She had on the pink formal and the big green picture hat. Lovely child. Well, Gladys Glue has decided to stick it out. She will divorce those first two husbands and stay married to the third. No applause, please. I'm sure that all of you will recall that charming little French chap, Dale Duet, the little two-headed boy. Well, I'm happy to report that little Dale has solved his problem. The public library has granted him 2 cards, and now he can have a book for each head. No applause, please. And now the case of Mrs. P.G. McMee of Mill Pieces. Oh, me, Mrs. McMee. You're all going to pieces. Pull yourself together now. Now, what is your problem?
Oh, I feel miserable, Mr. Ball.
We all do on this program, my dear.
Well, Mr. Ball, I don't know whether you would consider this a problem or not.
Well, tell it, my dear, and we'll see.
Well, I married my husband, Melvin McNee, and I never really did get along with his grandfather because the old man said that I had a face like his sister's cousin who was a gangster because he was given a good beating by her brother-in-law, who later turned out to be the husband of a very wealthy oil woman from Oklahoma, who never suspected her father of having anything to do with the Nazis because as far back as the 3 boys could remember, their mother was mean to them and never allowed their younger sister any of the privileges that Flossie had, which caused the uncle great concern because he had been on the lookout for her mother's brother ever since the last war and was determined that no matter what happened, he would not forgive them. So they are after me time and time again for an answer, and I still have my ambitions. Well, Mr. Ball, my problem is, should I?
Would you mind repeating that, please? Better still, let's have the next case.
Good evening, Mr. Ball. My name is Hobart Heap, and I live in Sausalito. And I have a problem.
Yes, go right ahead. Don't be nervous.
Thank you, Mr. Sausalito. My name is Ball Heap, and I live in Hobart.
Now, please, don't be nervous.
Yeah. Well, my name is Hobart Sausalito, and I live in a heap.
Now. You're all unstrung. I believe your name, didn't you say your name was Sausahipo, and you live in Ball Barto?
Well, I have a problem. I am a gambler, and I do the same thing all gamblers do. I gamble. I started gambling pennies at first, and then the grocery money, and then I gambled all my wife's savings away. Our car, our home, all gone. All gone now.
And what does your wife think about all this?
I don't know. She left me yesterday. This morning she came back with the children and the washing machine, but I'd gambled the washing machine away.
I see. Well, about all you have left is your home, isn't it?
No, that went this afternoon. Just 2 hours after I lost my job. Life's just about over for me, Mr. Ball. Gambling has been my undoing.
I see. And your problem?
Mr. Ball?
Yes?
I'd like to know who looks good to you in the 4th at Bay Meadows.
Yes, there were one or two
just come true. I'm glad I waited for you.
Half-track, surplus salesman.
This week, as it must to all men, Army Day came to the infantrymen. In San Francisco, the 2nd Division paraded up Market Street.
What about surplus?
In New York, the Rainbow Division paraded up Broadway.
What about surplus?
Yes, in Washington, Army bigwigs were faced with the perplexing question of surplus. Where is it?
Thus, this Army Day, people all over America were asking the question, what about surplus? Who's buying it, or can they? To bring an end to these questions, a page torn from the private files of Hal Halftrack, surplus salesman.
Oh, you bet, madam. Why, that 16-inch shell will make a beautiful ashtray.
Well, are you sure it won't go off?
Oh, positively. Why, madam, our detonator experts have gone over that shell from stem to stern. It's as safe as a baby's rattle. Yes, you'll certainly surprise your husband with this ashtray.
All right, I'll take it. Here you are.
Fine. You won't regret this buy, madam. No, sir, you won't regret it. Over there. Goodbye. Over there. Well, it'll still make a good ashtray.
Good afternoon. Are you Hal Halftrack?
Right the first time. Hal Halftrack, and I'm dealing in Army surplus.
Fine. Then you're just the man I want to see. I've just come from the draft.
Ah, too bad, too bad. Almost got drafted myself once. Going in the Army, eh? Well, you've come to the right place. You have a decided advantage over the boys who went in early. You're going into the Army equipped.
Yes, but Mr. Halftrack...
Don't say another word. I'm going to outfit you, son. From top to bottom, you're going to be wired for sound.
But Halftrack...
If you don't quit interrupting me, fella, I'll send you right into the Army just like you are. Now, you'll need... Tell me, fella, what branch of the service do you think you're going into? Well, it really doesn't matter. First off, you're going to need a few uniforms, about 12 dozen of each. Paratroopers, cavalry, mechanized infantry, and air corps. That's in case you're transferred.
But,
You were about to say, what if you're promoted? Well, I thought of that too, fella. I'm throwing in officers' uniforms for each of the branches, 12 dozen each.
I think you're making a mistake.
Yes, you thought I was leaving out your means of transportation. Well, you're wrong. I'm putting in a fleet of jeeps on your list and a staff car in case you're appointed to the higher echelon.
Halftrack.
Halftrack. I'm glad to see you're taking an interest in this. After all, it's for your benefit, not mine. Yes, indeed, you will need a half-track. Ours haven't been working too well lately, so I'm going to include 3 in your order.
But...
That's a good question. What if you don't stay in the ground forces? What if you fly? Well, we're all out of B-29s, but I can let you have 4 B-17s.
But...
All right. You can have 6. I'll stretch a point.
You don't seem to understand.
Oh, yes. You're worried about that fighter protection up there. Well, I'm including a dozen each. 1 dozen P-38s, 1 dozen P-40s, 1 dozen P-51s, and, if you're lucky, I may throw in a half dozen of the new jets.
Half-track.
You've already got one of those on your list, fella. Now, there's only one more thing I can think of. Let me see it. Chemical warfare, yes? You'll need a full supply of all the poisonous gases plus a sniff kit so you won't poison yourself. And I happen to have one carload of the late gas mask.
But...
Oh, you'll need every one of them. You'll meet a lot of friends in the Army. You know, I can't see why all the rest of the folks who come in here can't use the war surplus items I've sold you. They're all handy. Now, what have you got to say to that?
Only this. I'm the clerk of your draft board, and for some reason you were overlooked in the early call. You're going into the Army equipped. You've just been drafted.
Well, tonight's egg was laid on the vocal side by Clancy Hayes and Nora McNamara. John Galbraith and Ethel Sterling blew the lines. Phil Bavaro and his ragged airs were the music. Dick Green glued the joints together. This is Jack Webb saying good night, gang. Hey, and don't forget us again next week about 9:30. And don't forget your letters and cards, will you?
This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Dragnet is brought to you by Chesterfield, made by Liggett & Myers, first major tobacco company to bring you a complete line of quality cigarettes.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned the missing persons detail. You get a call that a young mother and a 9-month-old baby have disappeared. Routine investigation turns up the possibility of foul play. Your job? Find them. Today, friends, you hear these 3 words everywhere. Chesterfield's for me. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. Best for you, because Chesterfield gives you proof of highest quality, low nicotine, the taste you want, the mildness you want. Chesterfield is best for you because it's tested and approved by 30 years of scientific tobacco research. Chesterfield is best for you because it has an established good record with smokers, proven by test after test. Yes, friends, the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made for the taste you want, the mildness you want. Join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield. Always say, Chesterfield's for me.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, August 12th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of Homicide Division, missing persons detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Lorman. My name's Friday. We were on our way out from the office, and it was 10:14 a.m. when we got to 1865 Malabar Street. Manager's apartment.
Better try it again, huh?
Yeah.
Just a minute. I'm moving as fast as I can.
Sounds like she's got trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Miss Fleischer?
Yeah, what do you want?
Police officers, ma'am. We'd like to talk to you.
Come in. I got to take care of that kid.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, ma'am.
Sit down. I'll be right back.
All right, thank you.
Sounds like colic to me.
All right?
Yeah, sounds like colic. Wonder if she's got a hot water bottle.
What?
Hot water bottle. Put it on the kid's stomach. Makes him feel better.
Oh.
Both of ours had the colic. Pour out 3 hot water bottles.
On 2 kids?
No, Joe. We lost the stopper on one of them.
Baby's teething, having a rough time.
Oh.
This is my partner, Frank Smith. My name's Friday. We'd like to ask you some questions about one of your tenants.
Oh, which one?
Mrs. Shipley. We understand she had apartment 207.
Yeah, she did. What about her?
You know where we can get in touch with her?
You got any idea?
When did you see her last?
Guess it must have been a month ago.
Possible you might be able to give us an exact date on that?
Well, if I could have done that, I told you right out. I got nothing to hide.
Well, we didn't mean to say that you had, ma'am.
Well, it sounded like it. Sounded an awful lot like it. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yes, ma'am.
When Harriet first moved in here, we got along fine. She was all the time wanting me to tell her how to take care of the baby when it came.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Got along just fine. Used to have our little cup of coffee in the afternoon. Chummy. Then all of a sudden it all got different.
Well, how was that?
Just did. Her husband was overseas. In the Army. I guess Harriet missed him pretty much. Anyway, she was always saying how she did. Wished he could be here when the baby was born. Got terrible depressed.
I see.
Moody, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
I did what I could to cheer her up. Used to go up there and we'd sit and talk. Taught her how to knit. Gave her some needles and yarns, a little present. I thought maybe it'd give her something to think about. Kind of take her mind off her and her husband. Didn't do no good.
Well, how long had her husband been away, do you know?
4 months this time. He's over in Japan, I think, Army.
Mm-hmm.
Harriet used to go out once in a while, go down to the show. Seemed like just about every picture she saw made her sadder. I guess that's why she did it. Just got so sad she couldn't take it anymore.
Oh, what's that?
Tried to kill herself.
Shipley?
Yeah. I got the kids in bed one night and went up there. I hadn't heard nothing from her that day, so I went up to see how she was. Good thing I did, too. Found her right there in the living room. She cut her wrists. Right away, I called for the doctor, and all the ambulances and police came running around. Took her to the hospital. Big deal. Guess I found her in time, though. They pulled her through.
Mm-hmm.
I walk up there and find her dying, that far from death's door, and when she comes home from the hospital, what thanks do you think I get?
I wouldn't know. Go ahead.
Nothing. Not a single solitary word do I get. She's mad. Says I should have left her alone, let her done it. Come in here when she got back and read me off in words that I ain't used to hearing.
Uh-huh.
I got 5 kids, mister. They take a lot of time, and I ain't got enough to go running around after nobody who don't thank a person for saving their life like that. I called it quits right then. Right at that minute, we were no longer friends.
Mm-hmm. When did she make the attempt on her life?
Last September. I don't remember the date. I think it was the 2nd. Maybe the 3rd week. I'm not sure about what day it was. Anyway, after I saved her life, she's mad at me.
She have any people here in Los Angeles, would you know?
I never heard her talking none. She's got a sister. I don't know, but I don't know where she is. Don't think Harriet ever said.
Well, what did she say to you when she left? She give you any idea where she was going?
I didn't even see her. She didn't even come by and say so long. Goodbye, take a jump, nothing. She just left. One night she's here, next morning she's gone.
She get any mail while she was here?
Yeah. Once in a while she'd get a letter from her husband. Then there was a couple of letters from San Francisco. I don't know who they was from.
She take everything with her? All of her personal things?
Nothing. Left it all here. Of course, it's not much, but it's all here.
I see. Where are the things, ma'am?
Downstairs in the basement. I got it all put away in case she ever comes back. Gonna cost her, too. Storage and for me to pack it. I told you it isn't much. Some dresses, a few clothes for the baby, phonograph, couple of records. That's about it. You can see them if you want them.
We'd like to take a look at them before we leave.
Yeah, sure thing. Can't let you take them, though. I gotta collect for the storage.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Shipley have any close friends that you know of?
Not that I know of. Of course, she might have had some down at the Dream Palace.
Where's that?
Where she worked. Dance hall downtown. She was kind of hostess there.
Mm-hmm. That's the name of the place, is it? Dream Palace?
Yeah. She might have had some friends down there. None of them ever came here, though. At least if they did, I never saw them.
Do you know of any reason that she might have left in such a hurry?
Not right off, I can't think of one. There was something wrong with her, though, when she came back from the hospital. You know, when she had the baby, she was worried about something.
Would you know what it was?
No, all I know is that when she'd been home a couple of days, she came down here and asked me to do some work on the apartment. I told her if she wanted anything done, she could do it herself the way she talked to me.
Well, what'd she want done?
Silliest thing I ever heard of. She didn't have anything to steal.
Well?
She wanted all the locks on the doors changed.
"10:46 a.m. In the company of the apartment manager, Barbara Fleischer, Frank and I went down to the basement and looked through the missing woman's effects. Other than the phonograph, several cardboard boxes of used baby clothes, and cheap woman's dresses, we found nothing. There were no snapshots or letters to aid us in ascertaining where she might have gone. We asked Mrs. Fleischer to notify us in the event that she heard from the Shipley woman. We put in a call to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital and verified the story about the attempted suicide. 11:15 a.m. We checked the phone book for the address of the Dream Palace Dance Hall. It was on the 2nd floor of a large building at the corner of 7th and Margot Streets. On the front of the building were several faded photographs of contest winners with the cups that they'd won and the name of the proprietor, Ernest Lasnik. We went upstairs. It was a large barn-like room with crepe paper birds hanging over the lights. In the rear of the place, at one of the tables, we found Lasnik. He was just eating his lunch.
Mr. Lasnik?
Yeah? What do you want?
I'd like to ask you some questions. We're police officers. My name's Smith. My partner, Sergeant Friday.
Hi.
How are you?
Don't shake hands. Got butter all over them. Sit down.
Thank you.
Care for a sandwich?
No, thank you.
No, you do. Go right ahead. There's all the makings. Bread, butter, salami, pickles. Help yourself.
No, thanks, Mr. Lasnik.
You don't mind if I go ahead, huh? Bunch of kids coming in at 3:30. I'd like to get the place cleaned up before they get here.
No, sir, you go right ahead.
All right. What do you want to see me about?
It's about one of your employees, sir.
Yeah? Which one?
Girl named Henriette Shipley.
Oh, yeah, I remember. She don't work here anymore.
She doesn't work here anymore?
No.
Got any idea where she is?
No, got the slightest. I ain't seen Nadine in about maybe 6 months.
No, sir, you don't understand. We're inquiring about a Henriette Shipley.
Yeah, I know. I told you. I ain't seen her in 6 months.
What's this about Nadine?
That's her club name.
Oh.
See, lots of girls don't like to use their real names. In case a fellow wants to get chummy away from here, It's easier if we don't know the girl's real name. Harriet used Nadine.
I understand.
We got a bunch of them. When one of the girls leaves, we put the name back in a hat. New girl picks it. Had 14 Nadine since we opened. 27 Altheas.
Yes, sir. Do you have any idea where the Shipley girl is?
No. Might check her husband. He might know.
We understand he was in the Army.
Yeah, that's right. He is. Overseas. He should know where his wife is, though. Ask him.
Well, we'll probably do that, sir. We thought maybe we could turn her up ourselves. There's been a missing report filed on her.
Missing, huh? Who told it?
Sir?
Who told her about her being missing?
The report was filed by her mother-in-law.
Well, I wish I could help you fellas out.
The last time you saw the Shipley girl, she say anything about leaving town?
No. Wouldn't be surprised, though.
Why do you say that?
Well, poor kid was scared to death. Told me she wanted to get away.
Do you know what she was frightened about?
Yeah, Cliff Bender. That's what she was afraid of, Cliff.
Well, who's he?
Well, look, I'll tell you the whole thing. Be easier that way. One favor I got to ask you.
Yes, sir?
You won't tell Cliff I told you. He come up here, he could tear the place apart easy. You got to promise me you won't tell him.
All right, sir. You go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Nadine, Harriet, well, she came to work for me about a year and a half ago. Came in and told me she'd had some experience in a dance place in the Midwest. I don't remember the name right off. Probably come to me.
Yes, sir.
Well, I told her I'd try her, sort of probation.
Yes, sir.
Well, it worked out fine. End of the week, I put her on permanent. She did real well. A lot of guys got to come in just to dance with her. Wouldn't have nobody else, just Nadine. Harriet. Well, that's how she met Cliff. He come in one night, fell for it, and they started to go together. I told him I didn't like the idea of girls going out with the customers. Not good business. Didn't make any difference to them, though. They kept right on seeing each other.
That's this Bender fella.
Yeah. Well, anyway, one night the soldier come in. He was took right away with Nadine. Asked her for a dance. Kept buying tickets all night so he could dance with her. Come back the next night. Same thing. All night long he danced with Nadine.
That's Harriet.
Yeah, that's right. Called her Nadine. I told you about it.
Yes, sir.
Made Cliff plenty sore, but there wasn't anything he could do about it. She wanted to be with a soldier. It wasn't too long before she told him he was going to get married. Well, word got around about that. Really made Cliff hacked. Real hacked.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, him and the soldier, Shipley, had a fight downstairs one night after we closed. Guess Cliff waited for him and Nadine to come down. Anyway, it was a real brawl. Cops and everything. Cliff really cleaned up on the soldier. Didn't do any good, though.
What do you mean?
Nadine told Cliff to stay away from her. Keep far away. Told him that her and the soldier was going to get married and that they were through. She meant Cliff and her. Well, the soldier and Nadine got married a couple days later, and she quit her job. Right after that, I heard he went overseas, and Cliff was around trying to break things up. Didn't do no good, though. Nadine loved the soldier, and she planned to stay with him.
Yes, sir.
Well, I tried to talk to Cliff, tell him to stay out of it. Leave the girl alone.
What was that?
I told him to leave the girl alone,
I
see? Didn't do any good. He was sure hacked. He said that she was his girl. Might take some time, but he'd get her for running out on it. I figured he told her that, too. That's what she was afraid of. Don't blame her. Cliff told me that, I'd believe him.
What's that, sir?
That he was going to kill her.
$12:26 p.m. After we'd gotten the names and addresses of the employees of the Dream Palace who knew the missing girl, Frank and I went back to the office. We had the names checked through the record bureau, but we found that only one of the 14 people on the list had arrest records. That one was a Cliff Bender, who had been picked up on a charge of suspicion of burglary. However, according to the information on the report, he'd been released because of lack of evidence. We checked the log about the fight Lasnik had mentioned. We found that an FI card had been filed, but that no arrest had been made. We went over to room 45, and we talked with Sergeant Egenweiler and Sergeant Rubles, the officers who'd handled the burglary case. They told us that in their contacts with Bender, he was sullen and uncooperative. They told us that he'd been seen in the company of known criminals. They also told us that in their opinion, they considered the man dangerous. We checked his last known address, but we found that he'd moved in July, leaving no forwarding address. While Frank and I checked out the rest of the missing girl's friends and acquaintances, Sergeant Graham and Cliff Bailey tried to check on Bender. We talked to everybody on the list we'd gotten from Ernest Lasnik, but none of them could give us any idea where we might find the Shipley girl. Most of them, however, told us about the threat that Bender had made against her life and expressed the opinion that he was responsible for her disappearance. The next day, Wednesday, August 13th, Frank and I went by communications, then we checked back into the office.
I tell you the mother-in-law of that missing girl called again this morning?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, she wanted to know how we were doing, what progress we've been able to make.
Well, what'd you tell her?
Well, I filled her in on what we found. I didn't tell her about Bender, though, just that we thought we'd be able to find the girl. You talked to her when she made the original report, didn't you, Joe?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Well, how do you mean?
Well, isn't there something there that's a little off base to you?
I don't know what you're trying to get at.
Well, it just seems to me that she doesn't care if we find her daughter-in-law or not. All she cares about is the kid.
Well, yeah, I kind of got that idea myself. The way she talked, doesn't seem that she and the girl got along too well, does it?
No. It just seems like there's something she isn't telling us. I don't know what it is. I asked her this morning if she'd heard from her son, if he knew anything about where his wife might be.
What'd you say to that?
Well, she told me she didn't want to bother him, make him worry. Wouldn't even tell me his mailing address. Said she didn't want him alarmed unless there was a reason.
No, the way I see it, his wife being gone is reason enough.
Yeah, that's the way it seems to me, and I told her that. She said our job was just to find the girl and the baby, and that's all.
Cooperation like that isn't going to make it any easier, is it? We can only do so much if she isn't going to help us.
No, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Her filing the report and then holding out information.
I may better get over and talk to her again. See if we can get the whole story. How about Graham and Bailey? You heard from them?
No, there's a note in the book. They got a lead on Bender. Graham said they were going to run it down for us this morning.
Uh-huh. What time you got now?
9:43.
I want to talk to the skipper. Make arrangements to put a picture of the Shipley girl on suspects wanted this afternoon. Might be able to turn something, huh?
Sure, a lot of loose ends.
I get it. Missing persons Friday. Yeah, Graham. Mm-hmm. Where? What'd she say? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's about the same. What? Yeah. Well, you want to call the crime line? Right. No, we'll meet you out there right away. Right, bye. Well, they found where Bender was living.
What do you mean, was?
Checked out last June, about the same time the Shipley girl disappeared. Landlady hasn't seen him since. Guys came up with something else.
Yeah.
A couple of shirts for a baby.
Uh-huh.
Bloodstains all over him. 10:02 a.m. We got to the apartment where Bender had been living. The crew from the crime lab were there, and they were photographing the room and the clothing that had been found. Sergeant J. Allen told us that he'd have to run a precipitate test on the stains before he could tell whether or not they were of human origin. 10:45 a.m. They finished their investigation on the scene, and they went back to Central Station to compile the results. Frank called the office, and a local and an APB were put out on Cliff Bender, asking that he be picked up as a possible suspect. We also had his card flagged in the record bureau. We talked to the landlady of the apartment building, and she told us that Bender had left his apartment hurriedly one night about the middle of June. She was unable to tell us the exact date, but she did go on to say that she'd been getting a check for the rent each month. We asked her if she could show us either one of the checks or an envelope that had come in. She explained that she had thrown the envelopes away and had cashed the checks. She was unable to tell us where they'd been mailed from. She said that as far as she knew, she'd never seen the Shipley girl in Bender's apartment. We asked her to notify us immediately in the event that the suspect returned. We put in a call to the bank where the rent checks were cashed, and we asked that they give us the information on them. 1:30 p.m. Frank and I went over to the crime lab, and we talked to J. Allen. He told us that the stains on the baby clothes were human blood. He showed us the photographs taken, but there was nothing in them that would give us any lead as to either the girl's or Bender's whereabouts. That afternoon, the picture of Henriette Shipley was telecast over the police program. We got several calls from citizens who said that they'd seen the girl. We checked them all out. One of the callers, a bus driver, told us that he'd seen the girl and the baby on his bus during the month of June, and that she'd gotten off in San Diego. We alerted the police in that city to look for her. Thursday morning, Frank and I checked into the office. You want to check the book, Frank, see if there's anything from San Diego?
Right.
I got it. Missing persons, Friday. Yes, that's right. Yes, we did. Uh-huh. Where? You sure about that? Right away. Mm-hmm. Frank, get your coat.
What do you got?
Shipley girl. They found her.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
Meet the Tom Harmons. You know Tom is an All-American, and now a top sports announcer. Mrs. Harmon is the motion picture and television star Elise Knox. They're typical of people everywhere who are saying, Chesterfields for me.
I like regular-sized Chesterfields. Have for years. They're best for me, at least I think so, because of that Chesterfield quality.
That's the way I feel about them, too. I've always smoked Chesterfields. Now I go for the king size. Guess I like a longer smoke.
So whether you smoke regular size like Elise Knox or king size like Tom Harmon, enjoy America's most popular two-way cigarette. Chesterfields for me. You hear it everywhere. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. For the taste you want, the mildness you want, join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield.
The call had come from a nurse at the State Mental Hospital in Camarillo. She told me that they had a patient who resembled the photograph of the missing girl as televised on our police program. Frank and I left the office and drove out to the hospital. We talked to the nurse and to the doctor who was taking care of the sick girl. From personal effects and the scars on her wrists, we were reasonably sure of the identification. The doctor told us that the girl had been committed on July 17th by her sister under the name Henriette Szold. He told us that the girl was undergoing treatment, but that there was little hope for a complete recovery and that it would be some time before she could be permitted to leave the violent ward. We tried to talk to her, but we were unable to get any coherent answers. We asked about the baby, but the authorities were unable to give us any information. We got the name and address of the sister who had committed the Shipley girl, and we drove down to San Diego to talk to her. It was a small place in a wartime housing development. The paint was peeling off the plyboard walls, and the front yard was overgrown with weeds. The woman who answered the door identified herself as Pauline Lavin.
Sure, what do you want to know? Don't make no difference now. You go back and tell her it's too late. Way too late.
Tell who, ma'am?
Mrs. Shipley, Harriet's mother-in-law. You go back and tell her she done it good. There ain't nothing left to do to Harriet. It's all been done. You can tell her that.
Well, we don't work for Miss Shipley, ma'am. We're trying to find out what happened to your sister and the baby.
Who asked you to find out in the first place? It was her, wasn't it? Wasn't she the one?
She filed a report.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, you go back and tell her there's nothing more she can do to Harriet or the baby or Big Jerry. Nothing at all she can do.
Where is the baby, ma'am?
He's not here.
Do you know where he is?
Yes, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell anybody. I promised Harriet I wouldn't tell, and I'm going to keep the promise.
Miss Lavin, we don't want to hurt your sister. We're just trying to get to the truth. Now, maybe you better tell us what you know.
You ain't doing this for old Miss Shipley?
No, ma'am.
All right, then. I'll tell you, but not for her. I wouldn't give her the right time of day. She's the one that did it, the whole thing. You can lay it right at her feet.
All right, you want to tell us about it?
Since they got married, she's given the kids trouble. Right from the first she heard about it. Said that Harriet wasn't good enough for her son. Said Harriet was cheap. Didn't make any difference to the kids. They got married anyway. They were in love, so they got married.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as Big Jerry went overseas, she started on Harriet to get an annulment. All the time writing her letters telling her how cheap she was. That if she really loved Jerry, she'd get an annulment. And she found out about the baby, so she started saying how they should get a divorce.
Does Harriet's husband know about this, would you know?
Sure. All along he knew it. He didn't like it. Told his mother to stay out of their lives. Kept telling her, but it didn't do any good. None. Then Harriet got the wire. The one that told about Big Jerry being dead. Almost killed her. I thought it was going to. They was really in love. It isn't often you see something like them, too. Real love. The kind you live, not the kind you talk about.
Mm-hmm.
One night, right after she got the wire, she got a phone call from San Francisco. From old Miss Shipley. She told Harriet that she was going to the court to take the baby away from her. Said she could prove Harriet wasn't a good mother and she didn't deserve to have the baby.
Was Harriet living here at the time?
No. Well, she'd come down every weekend, but she wasn't living here. There was a guy up in L.A. that was giving her trouble. A fellow named Bender, I think. He was with her when she tried to kill herself. He ran out so he wouldn't get mixed up in it. He was always giving Harriet trouble, so she left one night to get away from him and old Mrs. Shipley. She came down here and said that she just wanted to be left alone with her baby. That's not a lot to ask, is it? Just to be left alone?
No, ma'am.
It was for old Mrs. Shipley. She just wouldn't let Harriet alone. Kept after her saying how she was going to take away the baby. How Harriet was an unfit mother. Kind of got on her mind. Finally, there wasn't much else she was thinking about but how to keep her baby. She went out walking one night. Took the baby with her. Rained. Rained real hard. I guess the baby took cold. Anyway, the next day he came down with a bad fever. A couple of days later, he was dead. Not even a year old, and he was dead.
Mm-hmm. You want to go on?
Harriet sat around for a week. Didn't say anything. Didn't do nothing, just stare at the wall. Didn't even cry. Just sat and looked at the wall. And all of a sudden, she just fell apart. I called the doctor. Said it was a breakdown and said I should have her committed. I signed the papers, and that's where she is. I went up to see her. She didn't even know me. I'm her sister, and she didn't even know me. So you just tell old Miss Shipley how she did good. You just tell her what she did to my sister. Tell her how the baby's dead, and she's finally got what she wanted, because now Harriet hasn't got the baby. Nobody's got him. Nobody's got him. Nobody.
Come on, Frank.
Yeah. Where to?
Well, we better get back to town.
Guess so.
See Miss Shipley. We got back to Los Angeles at 9:30 p.m. We went directly to the hotel where Mrs. Shipley was staying. The desk clerk told us that she'd left word that she was not to be disturbed. He called the room, and she asked that we come up. We took the elevator to the 7th floor, and we walked down the hall.
Good evening, Sergeant Friday. Officer Smith, come in.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're just having a drink. May I fix you one?
No, thank you.
How about you, Mr. Smith?
No, thank you.
You don't mind if I go ahead?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Just sit down, and I'll be right with you.
Thank you.
Desk clerk said it was important.
Yes, ma'am.
You found my daughter-in-law?
Yes, ma'am.
And the baby? Where is he? Is he still with us?
No, ma'am, he's not.
Where is he?
Your daughter-in-law's pretty sick, Miss Shipley.
Oh?
Yes, ma'am. She's in the state hospital up at Camarillo.
Camarillo?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a mental hospital, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about Harriet, but I knew she wasn't very stable.
Why didn't you tell us your son was dead, Mrs. Shipley?
I didn't think it had any bearing on the thing. What difference does it make?
You don't seem to be very interested in his wife.
I'm going to be honest with you, Sergeant. I'm not. Not in the least interested in what she does or where she is. I never did feel she was the right girl for my son. Never. When the baby was born, I tried to go along with it. I tried to be nice to her, and she wouldn't have it. She wouldn't even be friendly. She poisoned my son, turned him against me. She's a terrible woman. Just terrible. Whatever's happened to her is just exactly what she's got coming. Naturally, I'm sorry it's the way it is, but there's nothing I can do. All I'm interested in right now is my grandchild. I want him. And if I have to go to court to get him, then I'll do it that way.
That won't be necessary, ma'am.
Where is he? I'd like to go and get him now that Jerry's wife can't take care of him.
He's dead, ma'am.
If this is some kind of a joke that you're making up to help my daughter-in-law keep him, it won't work.
It's no joke. It's the truth. He died in a hospital in San Diego.
It's not right. It's not right that he's dead. She did this. Harriet. She did it to get even with me. I know she did.
We're sorry, Miss Shipley.
First my husband, then Jerry. I haven't got anybody. I'm all by myself. There isn't anybody in the world who cares. Nobody.
No, we're sorry, Miss Shipley. I wish there was something we could do.
No, you're not. You're like the rest of them. But it's Harriet. She's the one. Nobody else to consider in this mess. Just her.
What about the baby?
The story you've just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On Thursday, August 14th, a meeting was held in the office of the Captain of Homicide, Los Angeles Police Department. In a moment, the results of that meeting.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. You know, the Chesterfield you smoked today is the best cigarette ever made, and best for you. Now, that's a fact. And to my way of thinking, it's the very reason for you to change to Chesterfield. Try 'em either way, regular or king size. If you try 'em, I think you'll say with all of us, Chesterfield's for me.
At the meeting held in Captain Lorman's office, it was decided that no criminal act had taken place, and the case was officially marked closed. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Herb Vigran, Carolyn Jones. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Watch an entirely different Dragnet case history each week on your local NBC television station. Please check your newspapers for the day and time. Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Filter tip smokers, this is it. L&M Filters. The one filter tip cigarette with plenty of good taste. Much more flavor. Much less nicotine. The right length for effective filtration. Only the L&M filter contains the miracle product, alpha cellulose, the purest material for filtering cigarette smoke. Yes, this is it. As Rosalind Russell puts it, L&M filters are just what the doctor ordered. Buy L&M filters, the light and mild smoke.
hear Rocky Fortune following John Cameron Swayze and the news on the NBC Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Dragnet is brought to you by Chesterfield, made by Liggett & Myers, first major tobacco company to bring you a complete line of quality cigarettes.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A howling dog causes a man to check his neighbor's house. He finds the brutally beaten body of an elderly woman. She's been killed by person or persons unknown. Your job? Investigate. Today, friends, you hear these 3 words everywhere. Chesterfield's for me. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. Best for you, because Chesterfield gives you proof of highest quality, low nicotine, the taste you want, the mildness you want. Chesterfield is best for you because it's tested and approved by 30 years of scientific tobacco research. Chesterfield is best for you because it has an established good record with smokers, proven by test after test. Yes, friends, the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made for the taste you want, the mildness you want. Join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield. Always say, Chesterfield's for me.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, June 10th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Lorman. My name's Friday. I was on my way back in from the alley, and it was 7:26 p.m. when I got to 9782 Green Oak Drive. Front door.
Did you find anything?
No. No sign of anybody out back. Did you call the crime lab?
Yeah, I talked to Lee's on the way.
That's good.
Call Hollywood Division, too. They're going to send out some more men to help us.
Well, it's an outside chance. We might come up with something.
Yeah. Whoever did it sure must have been wild, Joe. I don't think I ever saw a killing as brutal as this one.
It's pretty rough.
Must have hit her a couple of dozen times. Look at there.
Mm-hmm.
See? Wristwatch is broken. Looks like she might have raised her arm to try and stop some of the blows.
Yeah. Crystal smashed up pretty bad. It's hard to read.
Yeah.
Looks like 3:04, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
That must have been the time.
From what the neighbor says, that'd have to be this afternoon.
Yeah. Did you find anything that looks like a murder weapon?
Nothing out in the open. Thought it'd be better if the crime lab checked the place first.
How about the other rooms? Are they as bad as the one out front?
Yeah. Stuff's all scattered around, drawers pulled out, contents thrown all over. Whoever it was sure wanted us to think it was robbery.
Well, let's check the neighbor.
Yeah, he's across the street. Said he wanted to go home and take something to help quiet him down. Must have been quite a shock to the old guy.
Yeah. You want to tell Brian and Phillips where we'll be?
Yeah.
Right. Phillips is out in back. I saw him when I came in.
I'll talk to Brian.
All right. Ask him to let us know when Lee gets here, will you?
Yeah.
All right.
Come on in.
Thank you. Mr. Brody?
Yeah, over here. Want to turn the lights on? I was just sitting here having a drink, trying to calm down a little.
Yes, sir.
Switch is there on the wall, sort of behind the whatnot. You have to kind of feel around.
Yes, sir, I found it.
Turned out the lights to help my head. Oh, my, I got an awful headache. You don't happen to have a couple of aspirin on you, do you?
No, sir, I'm sorry, I don't.
Oh, well, I guess you don't mind much. I guess this'll do just as good.
Wonder if you tell me just what happened here.
Well, I'm glad to. I want to help all I can, sure. I'd like to see you get the guy who did this, Ethel.
Well, why do you think it was a man?
Huh?
Well, you said guy. What makes you think it was a man?
Well, I didn't mean it like, you know, not special, but come right down to it, almost got to be a man. You can't imagine no woman doing a thing like that. At least no woman I ever knew. It's got to be a man. Come on in. Everybody come in. Might as well have a convention, all the people coming in.
It's my partner, Mr. Brody.
Oh, another policeman, huh?
Yes, sir.
All set, Joe. They're going to call us when the crime lab crew gets here.
All right.
How are you, Mr. Brody?
People all over the place. I never saw a crowd come so fast as when the sirens come in. Seemed like they were attached to mushrooms, just sprung up out of the ground. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Fine, yeah.
Wonder if you'd mind leaving that alone until we ask you a few questions.
So you mean before I have another drink?
Yes, sir, if you would.
Well, of course. Glad to oblige. I'll wait, I mean. You don't have to worry about me, though. Not old Earl Brody. I'll hold my liquor. He just bet. Old Earl's a regular tanker. Don't ever show on old Earl.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you just tell us about finding the body.
Well, I was out in the front watering the lawn. Always do it at the same time, you see. The hot sun burns it up. You don't water, you know. You've got to do that.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's what I was doing, watering the lawn.
Yes, sir. Do you want to go on?
You sure you fellas don't want a little snort, huh? Good work.
No, thanks,
huh?
Brody.
No, thanks.
Yeah, well, all of a sudden I hear Nero making an awful fuss.
Who's that?
That's a silly name, isn't it?
Who is it?
Little bitty old Peak. She called it Nero. Always seemed to me that if you're going to call a dog Nero, it should be a big dog. Yes, Nero's the dog.
Well, what happened then?
Well, sir, first off, I didn't pay much attention to it. Just kept right on watering the lawn. And old Nero kept it up. Kept right on yelling and howling. Finally, I figured there must be something wrong. Yes, sir, there must be with all that going on. So I turned off the water and wandered over. You know, check up.
Yes, sir. Mr. Brody, about what time was this?
I thought it was funny, Ethel not coming out and making Nero shut up. Oh, it was about 6 o'clock. Yeah, about 6 o'clock.
Did you see anyone around the house when you went over?
Not a soul, no, sir. There's nobody. So I went around back to the patio, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there wasn't anybody there either. And I knocked at the door. Now, all this time, little old Nero is still raising old Ned. Ain't stopped to breathe hardly.
Yes, sir.
Well, sir, when I knocked on the door, things swung right open. Wasn't locked, you know, so I called Ethel. I called a couple of times. I didn't get no answer. I couldn't see nothing, so door opens on a kind of little service porch. I didn't see a thing.
Yes, sir.
Then I went in. Walked right into the kitchen. There she was, lying on the floor. Stuff scattered all over, and little Nero sitting right beside her, just going crazy.
You called the police right away, didn't you?
Well, I run out of the house, all over to my place, and called the operator. I dialed 0 and told him to send a policeman right away. Yeah, right away I called him.
Had you seen Miss Lawrence at all today?
Yeah, I saw her this noontime. She was out to get the mail, and we said, hello. You know, just as cheerful like that.
Well, what time did you say hello?
Oh, I picked up the mail and went right back into the house, just like she didn't have no idea what was going to happen. Oh, about 1:30, mail comes in.
Mm-hmm. Did you see anyone around her house this afternoon?
Nobody, no. Oh, well, of course, now, I was out in the back most of the afternoon, you see, out there working in the flowers, so I can't right out say that there wasn't anybody over there.
I see. Do you know where we can get in touch with Mr. Lawrence?
He works in the garage down on Pico. I think I got the name of the place around someplace. I used to take my car down to him before him and Mrs. Lawrence got a divorce.
How long have they been divorced?
About 3 years, I guess. Well, I'm not really sure about that.
How they get along, do you know? Any trouble between them?
I guess there's some who'd say that he was right. I made it a practice not to get involved in those things. Religion, politics, and marriage troubles. I don't get meddled up in them. Oh, they fought all the time. Yeah.
Has Mr. Lawrence been at his wife's house lately?
Well, not that I've seen. I guess they see each other, but I understand from what Ethel said. It was at the lawyer's. She used to try to tell me about it, but I just wouldn't listen. I don't believe in it. Religion, politics, marriage stuff, and all those things, etc., etc.
Yes, sir.
Alimony. They was always fighting about alimony, always.
Do you know what the disagreements were about besides alimony?
I'll tell you, mister. You better talk to Mr. Lawrence about that. He's the one to set you right on it. I go telling you, and I'm liable to say something wrong, you see, and that wouldn't be right, now would it? You better talk to him. You talk to him.
All right, sir, if you'll just give us the address, please.
Sure. I'll take a look at my checkbook, see if I can find it. You talk to him. He don't give you all the scoop, then maybe I can help you out a little.
All right, Mr. Brudig, thank you.
Got any more questions you got to ask me right now?
Well, if you don't feel well, sir, we can talk to you later.
Well, it ain't that I don't feel good, just that I like another little snort, you know, kind of pick me up a little, body and soul together, awful thing. Oh, just awful.
Well, there may be some more things we'll want to check with you later tonight.
A little old snort ain't going to do no harm. One thing, everybody says is old Earl can hold his liquor. Everybody says that. You can ask them, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly a day goes by somebody don't say that.
Well, if you'll get Mr. Lawrence's address for us, please.
Right away, sir. Wonder how you going to take all this. All them years of battling, screaming at each other. Now they're over. You ain't going to have no more trouble because of her.
No, that's not quite right, sir.
Huh?
He's liable to have a lot more. Earl Brudig looked through his desk and he found a canceled check bearing the address of the garage where the victim's husband was employed. While he was looking for the check stub, Frank and I interrogated him further on the relations between Ethel Lawrence and her husband. He refused to tell us any more than he had, explaining that if the answers we got from the husband weren't adequate, we could come back and see him. 6:48 p.m. We returned to the victim's house and we talked with Lieutenant Lee Jones. He told us that the crew from the crime lab had been unable to find the murder weapon, but that they had been able to lift several good fingerprints from the kitchen. He went on to say that these had been checked with those of the victim and they were not the same. Little other physical evidence was found in the house. However, an impression of a shoe had been found in the soft earth at the side of the house and a plaster cast had been made of it. We asked Lieutenant Jones to take the fingerprints of the neighbor who had found the body and check them with the impressions left in the victim's house. 9:46 p.m. The coroner arrived and removed the body and attached the paper seal to the front door. Frank and I went back to the office and checked the name of the victim and her husband through the record bureau. We found that Bernard Lawrence had been arrested 4 years previously on a wife-beating charge, but that he'd been released when his wife refused to prosecute. We checked the name Earl Brudig. He had no record. 10:54 p.m. We drove over to the garage where the victim's husband was employed. The place was closed, but there was a card on the door giving an emergency address. Frank and I drove out to the house, a low, rambling ranch-style building. The garage owner, Arnold Norton, met us at the door.
Yeah?
Mr. Norton?
That's right. What can I do for you?
Police officers. We'd like to talk to you.
Yeah, I guess it's okay. I don't know what it's about, but I guess it's okay. What do you want?
Might be better if we talked inside.
You mind if I see your identification?
No, sir. Here's my ID card. This is my partner, Frank Smith. My name's Friday.
Uh-huh. Yeah, come in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a minute, I'll turn off the TV.
We don't like to bother you, Mr. Norton. Shouldn't take us too long.
Doesn't matter. It's just a fight movie. I've seen it before. I get a kick out of seeing him again.
Mm-hmm.
What is it you want to know?
You have an employee named Bernard Lawrence working for you?
Yeah, Barney's been with me for about 7 years. Why?
You have a home address for him?
I suppose so. But can you tell me what this is all about?
Just a routine investigation. We'd like to talk to him.
Yeah, I'll write out the address for you.
All right.
You ever hear about Lawrence and his wife having any quarrels or disagreements?
I'm not quite sure how I should answer that.
What do you mean?
I don't know why you're asking the question. It's a little rough to ask me to comment on the way Barney gets along with his wife. I don't want to lay anything on him.
You've known him for quite a while, have you?
Yeah, I told you he's been with me for 7 years. Best carbureted man I've got.
You must have heard him discussing his home life at one time or another, haven't you?
I went through the same thing before. You know, I got myself right in the middle before. I don't want it to happen again.
I don't understand.
When they got the divorce, all the time lawyers coming around asking questions, trying to get me to take sides. I'm not going to do it. If Barney's trying to bring the thing up again, he should be the one to tell me, not have you fellas come around and do it. I'm not going to get in the middle again. I've known both of them for a long time. I think a lot of them. Ethel and Barney and me have been pretty close in the years. But I've had it. All the questions about how much Barney makes, what were his working hours, who'd he see, did he run around with any girls? No. I'm not going to answer any more questions.
Well, this isn't a civil matter, Mr. Norton.
This has nothing to do with the divorce?
No, sir.
I'm not going to be called as a witness?
We can't say to that, sir.
Uh-huh. The way you fellas are going about this routine thing makes me think that it's a lot more important than just a traffic ticket or anything like that.
Well, it is.
Did you see Lawrence today?
You mean at the garage?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he came to work at 8, just like he always does.
He was there all day?
8 to 5, that's what he works.
Does he have occasion to leave the garage at all during the day?
I don't understand what you mean.
Well, does he have to leave to go pick up parts, anything like that?
Yeah, once in a while he does. We got a fellow who does that kind of thing, but when he's out on a call and Barney needs something fast, he maybe runs down the street and gets it.
Mm-hmm. Did he leave the garage this afternoon?
Yeah, he had to go down and pick up some rebuilds.
You know what time he left?
It'd be hard to pin it down to an exact time. I don't much keep tabs on Barney. He comes and goes as he pleases.
It's pretty important that we get an idea of when he was gone.
Well, I can check it with the other boys in the shop. I should be able to find out when he left. I know he got back about 4:30, though.
You're pretty sure about the time?
Yeah, he came back and did a job on a rush one that we had, and then he took off at 5.
How was he acting when he came back?
What do you mean?
Did he seem upset about anything?
No, not particularly. He seemed pretty happy, though. Kept talking about what a beautiful day it was and how good he felt. You know, come right down to it, Barney was happier than he's been in some time. Just seemed like all his troubles were gone.
We know how you feel about this, Mr. Norton, but it's pretty important. Did you ever hear Mr. Lawrence threaten his wife?
I'm going to have to take your word for it as being pretty important, Mr. Friday. I've got no way of knowing, but if you guys get me in the middle of anything, I'm going to be pretty sore about it.
Don't worry about that.
Well, and to answer your question, Barney and Ethel didn't get along very well. I guess you knew that. Divorce and all, Ethel accusing Barney of running around, they had some pretty big arguments. Barney was pretty mad at the judge when he got the alimony. He had to pay Ethel $150 a month. Made him pretty sore. But the judge said to pay it or go to jail. Ethel would just as soon see him in jail. Barney used to talk to me about it. We'd stop down the street and have a beer when we closed up the shop. Barney would say there was only 2 ways he could get out of the alimony payments.
Well?
One was if Ethel got married again, and Barney always said she was so mean that no sane man would have her.
What about the other way?
That was for her to die. I guess that was about the only threat he ever made so I could hear it.
What's that?
That he wouldn't mind helping her out.
11:47 p.m. We drove over to the address we'd gotten for Bernard Lawrence. It was a modern apartment building in the Wilshire district. We rang the bell to his apartment, but we got no answer. Frank and I talked to the manager of the building, and he let us into the suspect's apartment. In a preliminary search of the place, we found nothing to tie the man in with his wife's death. However, from the clothes and the other personal effects in the place, we were reasonably sure that he'd returned to the apartment. The manager told us that Lawrence had come home after work, changed his clothes, and left, saying that he'd return later. We put in a call to the office, and we told them where we were, and we made arrangements to be relieved the next morning in the event the suspect hadn't returned. Frank and I settled down in our car, which was parked across the street from the apartment, to wait for Lawrence. At 1:30, Frank went down to the corner and called Fay to tell her he'd be a little late. He brought back a carton of hot coffee and some sandwiches. The stakeout continued. 2:30, still no sign of the suspect. 3:30, 4. At 5:30 a.m., the landlord came to the porch of the apartment house and yelled at us, indicating he wanted to tell us something. Frank went over to see him while I waited in the car. A couple of minutes later, Frank came running back.
Joe? Joe?
Yeah?
Manager just got a call from Lawrence.
What about?
Lawrence wanted to have his stuff packed and sent down to the depot.
Yeah?
Said he's leaving town.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
Meet Peter Lynn Hayes and Mary Healy, America's favorite husband and wife comedy team. They are typical of smokers everywhere who are saying, Chesterfields for me. Mary says,
I've smoked regular-sized Chesterfields for about 7 years. Guess that ought to prove how I feel about Chesterfield's taste and mildness.
Peter says, Chesterfields for me, too.
Far as I'm concerned, King is the only size. And like Mary says, Chesterfield is the only cigarette.
Either way you like them, I'll bet you'll find Chesterfield is best for you.
Yes, smoke America's most popular two-way cigarette. Regular and king-size Chesterfield. The best cigarette ever made. And best for you.
5:42 a.m. We called the business office and had arrangements made to check the reservation lists on trains going east. We also set up stakeouts on the depots and on the airline terminals in the event the suspect changed his mind about taking the train. 2 officers came out and relieved us at the apartment. The manager of the apartment was instructed to notify the officers on stakeout in the event he heard from Lawrence. 6:12 a.m. Frank and I drove back downtown. We went to the business office and got out a local and an APB on the suspect. We checked out of the office to go home and change our clothes, and at 8:46 a.m., we met back in the squad room.
Well, you made it fast, huh, Joe?
Yeah, carton of coffee there if you want some.
No, thanks. I got something to eat on the way in.
No?
Any word?
No, not yet. Lawrence still hasn't showed up at the apartment. There's nothing from the depot stakeouts.
Oh, man, I'd sure like to get some sleep.
Well, I'm with you there.
You know, Faye's sure sore.
What about last night?
Yeah. Had it all planned that we were going to a movie tonight. Always plans it on my day off.
Yeah.
You know, we have dinner and go down to the neighborhood. Kind of nice. She looks forward to it.
What's that got to do with last night?
Well, this is my day off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it says in the schedule.
And I'm working, right?
Yeah.
Well, I worked all last night, too. Huh?
Yeah.
Going to be no movie tonight.
I don't follow you.
Well, I'm going to sleep. As soon as I get home, I'm going to climb right into the shower, dry off, into bed. Going to sleep the clock around.
Yeah.
That's why.
Mm-hmm. We got to talk to Skipper this morning.
Is he in yet?
Yeah, he's down at Chief Brown's office.
Mm-hmm. You fill him in?
Yeah, a little bit. He goes along with us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's check R&I. I want to look at that arrest report on Lawrence, see if any of his friends are listed. We might be able to get a lead on him. Better find out if he made that call he was supposed to have made when he was gone from work, huh?
Yeah. The way it looks, he's still in town.
Well, that doesn't do us a lot of good unless we know where.
Well, we can go out and talk to the fellow that found the body. He might be able to come up with something.
Better put a stake out on the garage where Lawrence worked, too. He might show up there.
Right. I'll get Norton on the phone. Tell him to let us know if he hears anything.
All right.
You know, the whole thing looks pretty clean. All we got to do is put Lawrence at his wife's house this afternoon. We got it made.
There's only one trouble.
Yeah?
We got to find him before we can put him there. After putting in the call to the garage where the suspect was employed and arranging for a stakeout on the place, Frank and I checked the arrest record that had been made out 4 years previously and obtained a list of his friends and relatives. We contacted each one of them, but they could give us no information on Lawrence. That morning, we met with Captain Lorman, and we went over the evidence with him. The fingerprints found at the scene of the murder had been eliminated when they were compared with those of the neighbor, Earl Brudig. Other physical evidence netted us nothing. The murder weapon still had not been found. The only piece of evidence that we had to attempt to identify the killer was the plaster cast of the footprint found by the side of the house. However, Lee Jones said that it would be of little use other than to identify the size of the shoe. It was a size 10 with a leather sole and a leather heel. There were no distinguishing marks on the impression. 2 days went by, and we still hadn't found Lawrence. We talked to the men he worked with, but none of them could supply us with any information as to his possible whereabouts. We checked the bars he was known to frequent without results. Apparently, the suspect had disappeared without a trace. On Saturday, June 14th, 3 days after the murder, Frank and I got back to the office after lunch.
You want to check the book?
Yeah.
Where can I find Joe Friday?
I'm him.
I'm Barney Lawrence.
Well, we've been looking for you.
I want you to get off my back. Leave me alone.
You mind telling us where you've been for the past 3 days?
It's none of your business. The only reason I'm here now is I want to tell you to stop going around asking a lot of questions, causing me embarrassment.
What do you mean by that?
You know what I mean. I don't mind telling you I'm pretty sore about the things you said behind my back. You probably didn't think I'd find out about them. But I did, and I'm telling you to stop.
You ought to take it easy, Lawrence.
You keep your nose out of this, cop. I'm talking to him. I got a few things for you, too, before I leave.
Yeah? I don't think you're going to leave.
What's that supposed to mean?
Just what it sounded like. You're under arrest.
For what?
Suspicion of murder.
You figured I killed Ethel?
You look good for it.
Then you better get a pair of glasses, cop. I'm walking out of here, and if you're smart, you won't try to stop me.
I wouldn't try it, Lawrence. Lawrence? Now, hold it. If you haven't done anything wrong, you got nothing to worry about. Now, come on back here.
You know something?
What's that?
I've always wanted to hit a cop.
Come on, Lawrence. On your feet.
Keep your hands off me, cop. Just keep your hands off me.
All right, now sit down. Right here. Sit down. Go ahead. We're investigating a murder. Someone beat your wife to death. We're trying to find who did it.
Well, it wasn't me.
You got a funny way of showing it. The suspect was booked in at the main jail on suspicion of murder. Lawrence put in a call to his lawyer, and arrangements were made to have him released on bond. Frank and I attempted to interrogate him before he was booked, but he refused to answer any questions we put to him. The following morning, we met with he and his lawyer. Again, we ran into the same stubborn silence. At 11:30 a.m., we met with Captain Lorman and Chief Detective Thad Brown. We laid out the evidence we had. From all appearances, we had the guilty man in custody, but it might be difficult to prove in a court of law. The one thing we'd been unable to establish was Lawrence's presence in the house at the time of the murder. It was decided that without being able to prove this, we would have little chance of getting a complaint from the district attorney's office. Frank and I started re-questioning the neighbors. None of them could tell us any more than they already had. We re-questioned the man who'd found the body, Earl Brudig. He came up with the additional information that there had been a crew of carpenters working on a house the day of the killing. The building was located next door to him, directly across the street from the place where the murder had been committed. We questioned the carpenters. None of them could tell us anything. However, there was one man who had been working on the construction that we were unable to reach. It took us several days before we were able to find him. On Wednesday, June 18th, we got to his house at 7:30 a.m., just before he left for work. He asked us to talk to him in the kitchen of his home.
I'm just having breakfast. Fix you guys something to eat?
No, thanks, Mr. Hewitt. We don't want to take up much of your time here.
Oh, don't worry about that. What's this about anyway?
We understand that you were working on a job on Green Oak Drive on the 10th of June. Is that right?
Let me think. Yeah, 9700 block. Yeah, I was there. Why?
You worked there all day, did you?
That's right. Left the place around 5:30. Say, this about that woman that was murdered?
Yes, sir.
You got the fellow that did it?
Well, we think we know where he is.
You guys like a cup of coffee?
Yeah, fine. We'll join you.
Yeah, thanks.
Either of you use sugar?
No, no thanks.
No, thanks, sir.
Don't see how you can drink coffee without it. Always use 2 spoons myself. That's good. Well, say, if you know who did the killing, how come he isn't in jail?
We need a little more evidence before we can take him to court.
That's why you're talking to me, huh?
That's right. A couple things you might be able to straighten us out on.
Why me?
Well, we've talked to the other men in the crew. Seems like you're the only one left.
Comes right back to me, huh?
That's right.
Yeah.
What's the matter, Hewitt?
Gotta sit down.
What's wrong, Hewitt? What's the matter? You sick?
Poison in the sugar. I've been expecting it.
Frank, get an ambulance, quick. Yeah. What kind of poison, Hewitt? What kind?
There's nothing you can do now. I know this is wrong, taking poison. I killed the old lady. I killed her.
Ambulance on the way, Joe. No hurry. He's dead.
The story you have just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On June 23rd, an inquest was held in offices of the coroner in and for the county of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that inquest.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Earlier, George Fenneman told you exactly why the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. And best for you. Now, the rest is up to you. Get a carton or 2 for yourself. Smoke them and you'll say as we do, it's Chesterfield's for me.
At the inquest, it was ruled that the suspect, Merle Patrick Hewitt, died of self-administered poison, and his death was listed as a suicide. The victim's husband, Bernard Jerome Lawrence, was released from custody.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank the editors of Time magazine for their cover story of Jack Webb and Dragnet. That's Time magazine, on your newsstands this Thursday.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Vic Rodman, Jack Crucian. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Watch an entirely different Dragnet case history each week on your local NBC television station. Please check your newspapers for the day and time. Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Filter tip smokers, this is it. L&M Filters, the one filter tip cigarette with plenty of good taste. Much more flavor, much less nicotine. The right length for effective filtration. Only the L&M filter contains the miracle product, alpha cellulose, the purest material for filtering cigarette smoke. Yes, this is it. As Ann Sheridan puts it, L&M filters are just what the doctor ordered. Buy L&M filters, the light and mild smoke.
Hear Rocky Fortune following John Cameron Swayze and the news on the NBC Radio Network.